Hi, y'all. You got to let me know if you can hear me. I've got yard work going on outside, and then we need to know if we'll be able to hear the situation here. Oh, it's so loud outside. I can't right now. So just let me know if you can hear me. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Sound is good. Great. Yeah, on my other two screens, I'm working, but on this screen, I'll be streaming. So we're going to see how that works out. I don't really know. Hopefully, I can mute myself and we'll still be able to hear Court. Yeah, sweet dreams. I can't miss it. We didn't miss Vallow, so we're not going to miss this either. Can't do it. And I am still in, we're right in the middle of the Apple River trial, but I just can't miss this one. No way. So we're going to be trying to do all the things this morning. I don't know if we'll be able to, but we're going to try. We're going to try and stream this while I'm working on the other two screens. So, oh, and my phone's ringing. Of course it is. 1 second. Or not. Yeah, I'm in and out myself. Oh, I know. Sparker, did you see that one of the jurors was sleeping? Like, are you kidding me right now? You're sleeping? What? Craziness. Craziness. Like, you can't be sleeping. What do you think this is? Crazy ass people. I gotta get a picture of Chad here and update my thumbnail. Ugh, he's such a demon. Ugh. Ugh. Just looking at him, I'm like, really, dude? Really? Ugh. He makes me so angry. They should. I really just don't understand what's going on over there with the Apple River, but now they've added new charges. So for lesser, Can you have my hair wrapper? Shut up. It actually looks decent. Right now, I've, of course, got it up because, I'm working. So, gotta keep it up. Oh, Mr. Daybell. And he's been in forever, too. So it's like, what? This is going to be wild. Mr. Daybell. I don't know if you guys have read like his beliefs and the things that he was really into. This guy, he's a wackadoodle. Like, sir, you're a wackadoodle. I mean, I think his stuff was like fiction, it was fake. But when you get somebody nutty like Lori, you end up, I'm just changing the thumbnail. Chad Daybell. Download this. It's a cult. It's a cult. It is a cult. Ooh. Oh, God. Oh. I mean, we could watch Apple River until you know, until then. Oh my God, why does this phone keep ringing? Hold on. Hold on 1 second. You know what I'm going to do while we wait? I'm going to play, hold on. I'm going to play the Apple River where he testifies in case you guys haven't seen it. Hold on. It was something yesterday. I'll put it on 1.25 though.
Seen this before?
Yes.
Do you remember that time in
I'm
your
going to
life
mute
when you were on the
myself. Let me
river
know if you
in
can
that
still
position
hear
as
him.
shown in that photograph?
Okay.
Yes.
Sometime after that, did something happen to you?
Yes.
Were you punched? And
Not,
attacked?
not before
sometime
that.
after this, were you
After
punched?
that, yes.
Okay. I want to talk about the time between this and the time that you get punched, okay?
Okay.
Exhibit number 104 there is on the, with it. Where are you on that?
I'm standing in front of two ladies.
In which, if you were going to just describe the symbol on exhibit 104 symbolizing you, which one is that?
The one with the M.
Okay. What color?
Do you want the
Blue.
indicator?
At that point in time, you said there's two people in front of you. Who are those two people in front of you?
A blonde lady to my left and the red hair lady to my right.
Were there other, does this accurately reflect how you remember roughly people in general around you?
Yes.
The blonde lady in front and the other woman, you understand now that through the trial that the blonde woman is named Madison Cohen?
Yes.
Can we use her name when possible?
Yes.
And the you said red-haired woman, her name's Riley Madison. Can we use her name when possible?
Yes.
Possible. So when Riley and Madison are standing in front of you at that point, just before you get punched, right? What are they doing?
They're yelling at me. At one point, they were pointing downriver and saying, "Go, go, get away."
What are they doing with their hands?
They're touching me.
When you say touching you, is that something gentle?
No, they're pushing. Madison, she pushed against my left shoulder. She pushed against my chest. She was pointing her finger right at my face. She was yelling at me, very close to my face. Riley had one of her arms, I believe it was left hand, on my right arm, squeezing and pushing me back.
And when you just gave that description, you put your hands distance apart. Can you show us that again? How far away were they?
About a foot.
Okay.
Less than a foot.
You've heard it described through trial as in your personal space. Would you agree with that?
Yes, right in my face, I would describe it.
When that was happening, what did it sound like to you?
The volume was very, very high.
Let me ask you about how your body was responding in that moment when people are pushing you, poking at you, the volume is high. How's your heart? Could you tell us about what your heart rate was?
Oh, yeah. My heart rate was getting really high. My breathing was getting very high. I was.
How about your vision? Did you
yeah.
have normal vision in that moment?
No. At that moment, because of the situation, I was getting tunnel vision.
And can you describe what you mean by you say in tunnel vision?
I couldn't see peripheral vision, but I could see center in right before my eyes.
How about hearing? Could you hear the noises?
I could hear the volume very high, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. The noise became garbled. I mean, the sound became garbled.
Did you feel threatened at that point?
Yes.
Did you have your knife in your right hand?
Yes.
What did you do with your left hand? Tell us what you did with your left hand.
Yeah, So with my left hand, I pushed her away from my face.
Can you show us what you did with your left hand? Why'd you do that?
She was very close to my face. She was in my personal space. She had been there for a while, and I felt threatened.
Did you intend to harm her in some way?
No.
Did you try to harm her in some way?
Absolutely not.
Do you know where, if at all, you had contact with her body when you raised your left hand in that manner?
No.
Do you think you had contact with her?
No.
Okay. I want to take us out of that space now for a second, okay, Nick?
Okay.
If I could have the screen again. You were here in court when we talked about, when we watched the video of you speaking with Brandy Hart, is that right?
Yes.
And I think you told her about your health condition. Can you just tell the jury now, what was your health like on July 30th of 2022?
It was very poor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you, I think you mentioned to her again, had quadruple bypass surgery before?
Yes, sir.
And when did you have that?
2020, about the same month. So about August.
Showing you here what's been marked as exhibit number 108. Can you tell us what those are pictures of, starting just on the left?
Yep. On the left, it's me right after the surgery, holding a red heart pillow against my surgery.
What was the purpose that you knew for that red heart pillow?
That was to protect my surgery from hits, bumps.
Was that something that the hospital provided? It looks like there's like almost a picture of heart and lungs on there.
It is. The hospital provided that.
And then the picture in the middle, what is that?
My first walk, my new life.
Did it take you some time to recover and be as active and mobile as you were before?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think you ever reached the same level of mobility and fitness that you were prior to the quadruple bypass?
Never.
What's the picture of you on the right there? You can tell us.
My baby.
Okay. Is that a dog?
Yeah.
Is that dog important to you?
My angel.
Okay. And that's the cushions helping you to enjoy time with her, but still keeping your chest safe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've had other surgeries in the past. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you have a hernia surgery?
2 hernia surgeries.
Have you had back surgery?
Yes.
And again, in general, would you consider your fitness on, if you were going to put it on a scale for July 30th, what would you consider your overall health and fitness on July 30th of 2022?
With my weight and very poor.
I want to ask you now about moving on to the Apple River on July 30th, okay?
Okay.
On that, this was a planned trip, is that right?
Yes.
Did you get a call from your friend Ernesto sometime before that trip?
Yes, sir.
What was that call about?
He wanted to remind me to bring my knife to cut string when we tie the tubes together.
Okay, when you say, do you have a pocket knife?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that pocket knife?
I owned it for about 10 years. I have it a lot on me. I use it as basically a dual tool. I call it my Swiss Army knife, basically because I use it as a screwdriver. I cut insulation when I do electrical work. I use it pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
I'm an engineer. My tool.
Is it something that you've carried on your person? I don't want to say all the time, but somewhat routinely?
Yeah, when I knew I was going to work on something or need it for something, yes.
Okay. Now I want to skip ahead again now to the river, okay? At some point, did Ariel lose his phone?
Yes, he did.
Did you go to look for that phone?
I volunteered to go look for it.
When you went to go look for that phone, what were you wearing?
Before that,
No, right when you
Oh.
left your group to go look for that phone, what were you wearing?
so I took my goggles, my snorkel, and my swimming trunks.
Did you have anything on your feet?
Yes, I had on my feet. I had a pair of really sandals.
Can I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 113. Is this a packet of 9 photos of your sandals?
Yes,
You've seen those?
yes,
Does that accurately show the condition of the sandals that you had?
yes.
Can you just move the admission of Exhibit 113?
Any objection?
I think I've seen them, so I'd like to take a look at it.
Yes.
Oh, all right, never mind, that's right.
All right, 113 is received.
These weren't taken by you, were they?
Pictures? No.
No, these were taken by the Sheriff's Department, correct?
Yes.
Permission to publish, Judge?
Yes.
Can I just, we're going to go through the PowerPoint, can I?
Yeah,
pass
just
them?
pass it to the jury.
Can you use your words? I know we have a picture that better does it, but just briefly describe the condition of those sandals.
Horrible.
Okay.
They were just coming apart. I couldn't walk on them unless I tried to mend them.
Okay.
As you can see, I used string, leftover string to mend them.
When you left wearing those sandals in your shorts, did you have your pocket knife with you?
Yes,
Where was it?
in my right pocket, clipped to my.
Did you have that there pretty much all day?
Yes,
You were here when we watched the video of your interview with Brandy Hart, is that right?
yes,
When you spoke with Brandy Hart, were you truthful to her about the knife?
No, I lied about the knife.
Was that your knife?
Yes, it is. It was.
Did you bring it with you when you went to go look for the phone?
Yes, I did.
When you went to go look for the phone, did you have any intent to harm anybody?
No.
Why'd you go leave your group?
Go look for the phone.
At some point, did you have some contact with a group of teenagers?
Yes.
And you were here in court when we saw the 9-second video, is that right?
Yes.
I want to show you just a couple of slides from that, if I could. Do you see those slides up there?
Yes.
Are those from that video?
Yes.
What are you doing in those 3 slides in general?
I was scanning the water looking for the phone.
And are you, in that position, are you walking upriver or downriver?
Upriver, away from that group of.
What do you mean? Can you subscribe? You're already subscribed. You're here right now. Gray hair. See? We've got all this gray hair and all the land, guys. You're already here, silly. Do you mean membership? I haven't even reapplied for my monetization. Nothing. I haven't done anything. I mean, you guys can be members on my other channel, but this one I haven't even bothered yet. I probably should, but I'm lazy. So I just haven't. I don't know. Eventually. She said, I want to join. I know. I hate that all my members and stuff are gone. Sucks. We're going to start the Gray Porch Gang soon. So many people commented that they also are going to do gray hair. And I'm like, yeah, you are. Let's go. We're all going to be running around here in golf carts with gray hair. That's the plan. All right, let me keep playing this. You don't need to hear from me.
Boys.
Did you hear them say some things to you
Yes.
prior to your walking upriver? And then did you hear those words that I have written on that slide?
Yes.
Prior to your hearing those words when you were walking upriver, had you had verbal contact with that group?
Think so. They asked me what I was looking for, and I told them I'm looking for a phone, a lost phone.
Did you ever tell them that you were looking for little girls?
No.
Were you looking for little girls?
Absolutely not. It's pathetic.
When you, at the end of this, when you watch the video, at the end of the video, where I'm not going to play it, but do you remember what you did right there at the end?
At the end, I was walking away.
Did you eventually turn around and face in the direction of the group that was yelling at you and calling you a raper?
Yes.
When you,
Yes.
All the interruptions with the are so annoying. I hate old ladies unite.
I'll sustain the objection. The question was leading. Please continue.
what did you do at the end of the video?
I was walking away.
At some point, did you ever become in a position where you were looking at that group of teenagers that had yelled at you?
Yes.
What did you see when you were looking at that group of teenagers after the end of this video?
I saw them. I saw one of them holding a phone in a bag, and I believed it was what I was looking for. So I turned around and I started approaching them.
Why did you approach them?
I wanted to get a closer look at the phone to see if it was the one that that belonged to Ariel.
Did you eventually get near them?
Yes, I started walking. Then I rushed the pace, stumbled, and fell on my knees, held onto their tube, at which point I lost my goggle and snorkel kit in the water.
You saw in the video, or excuse me, you saw during your interview with Brandy Hart that you said things different than what you just said now about what happened to your snorkel and goggles.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes,
Is your memory sometimes different than what you see in the video?
yes.
Was your memory, in your memory, what happened to your goggles?
In my memory, the goggles got
Knocked away?
knocked away. Yeah.
Objection leading.
So got
One second, objection, just wait on your answer. It is leading, sustained. Next question, please.
That's the exception stricken.
It's a leading question. Let's move on.
Is your memory perfect?
never.
Now that you've watched the video, do you realize that you were wrong about that?
Yes.
What happened to your goggles?
My goggles fell in the water.
When they fell in the water, what did you do?
I started looking for them, searching right where they fell.
Oops, it's on already. Showing you here some slides, 220, 225, and 279. Can you tell us what you're doing?
I'm searching for the goggle kit.
And where are you in relation to the 6 teenagers' tubes? Are you on the side? Are you upriver? Are you downriver? Are you in some other position?
I'm upriver. So yeah.
I'm going to then show you another group of slides, 575, 600, and 625. What does that show you doing?
All right, so what I did from that point, I went around the inner tubes to the other side, and I continued looking for the goggle and snorkel set.
Why did you walk around from the one side to get to the other side of the tubes?
Well, I thought that the water current would bring him over to the other side, and I was walking away from the boys at the same time.
Okay. During that time that you walked in that direction, did you have any physical contact with them?
No.
Were you confronting them?
No. Didn't say a word.
This next set of slides, what does this show you doing here?
I'm walking away from the group. Still,
Go ahead.
still looking for my goggles at that time.
When you were doing that, did you ever hear the kids say anything?
They gave me a warning.
What'd they say?
You got 10 seconds.
In response to that, what did you do?
I ignored them, and I actually continued doing what I was doing.
I'll show you the next set of slides here. Were you in a position to see here 963, 1140, and 1155, what the teenagers were doing behind you?
They were getting closer and closer to me. They were walking towards me.
Were you in a position to see that? Was that behind you, or had you turned around?
Well, I could hear their voices. I could hear that they were getting closer. At some point, I may have turned my head and witnessed that. They're coming towards me.
Showing you 1170, 1213, and 1284. What's happening here?
I'm at an angle to them, but I could say I had my back at them, still scanning the water, and they were right behind me. They got that close. Within seconds, they were right behind me.
At some point, did you see other people from another group?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw what seemed to me at the time adults coming over from the other side of the river.
And when you saw adults coming over from the other side of the river, what did you do?
I walked towards them. I walked towards this. The first one was was Madison.
When you walked towards Madison, where were the 6 teenage boys that had been yelling at you?
They were following me.
Were you in their path as you walked across the river towards Madison?
No,
Did they have as far as you know, did they have a clear path down the river if they wanted?
more than plenty.
Showing you this next group of photos. What's going on here?
So in this frame here, the first adult that came to me was Madison. She already had her finger pointing downriver and yelling at me and used some awkward words, ordering me to go down.
We see it looks like you're doing something with your right hand. Do you remember what are you doing with your right hand?
Yep, I was trying to explain to her what I'm looking for.
When you tried to explain to her what you were looking for, did you get the impression she was listening to you?
No, her voice was too loud to.
That's what Madison had his impression.
Okay.
Hold on, wait a second. Sustained. Speculation.
I'm asking about his impression. So I'll rephrase. Did you get the impression that Madison Cohen was going to listen to your words?
No,
Why not?
because she was too loud. She never stopped to give me a chance to talk, and she kept pointing and ordering me to go downriver.
We've all heard the tape, but was she using polite language?
All right, no.
Did you hear anyone saying anything behind you when you walked over to Madison Cohen?
Yes, they're all calling me names.
Showing you the next set of slides here, 1776, 1840, and 1824. What are you doing here in this set of slides?
I'm turning my back towards Madison and the rest of the people.
Why did you turn your back to Madison and the rest of the people?
It felt to me like I couldn't have a conversation with her at that point. She was not listening, and I didn't want to interact any further.
Had you at that point found your snorkel or goggles?
No.
Had you at that point found the phone?
No.
Did you hear anybody saying anything while you stood there with their back to them?
Oh, yeah.
What did you hear?
They were still yelling, he's looking for little girls.
Were you looking for little girls?
Absolutely not.
When you heard them, did you consider that to be a lie?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading.
Sustain.
Did you consider that to be a lie? I don't
Yes,
think
of
that's-
course.
Please.
I don't think that's
Sustain.
legal.
I sustain the objection. Please move on.
When you heard that, did you consider it to be truthful or did you consider it to be untrue?
Untrue.
And when you heard someone say an untruth about you, did that change how you were feeling?
I felt frustrated. I felt annoyed. They kept saying it over and over, so it annoyed me and frustrated me.
And when you heard them say this untruth about you, did it appear to you as if the other group that had come over agreed with what these the teenagers were yelling about you?
Objection. Leading.
Sustain.
Did you think anybody in the other group was going to help you or listen to you when you were being called these names and accused of being a pedophile?
Objection. Leading.
Sustain.
How did you feel?
Well, I felt overwhelmed at that point. I felt still annoyed, frustrated. I felt like she wasn't listening. She was the adult I thought I was going to reason with or get help from. She obviously didn't even attempt to reprimand the children from yelling.
Showing you another slide here. Some 1838, 1846, and 1865. Is that you?
Yes.
What are you doing?
Judge, can we go ahead?
Yes. Just one moment. Ready? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's continue.
Showing you photos 1838, 1846, 1865. What are you doing in those? Do you remember what you were doing?
Yeah, I had my back towards the group of people.
In the two photos there, which direction are you looking?
I'm looking downriver.
Okay. Are you looking at, there's two different groups, if I recall, from Exhibit 104. Is that right?
Yes,
One came from one side of the river and the other one's on the other side of the river.
correct.
Where are you, in the photo on the upper left, are you looking at one particular group as opposed to another group?
Yes, I'm looking at the boys group
And why are you looking at the boys group?
because they were yelling at me.
And what were they yelling at you?
They were yelling things that were not true and pointing at me.
After that happened, showing you the next group of slides, 1875, 1883, and 1889. Do you remember what Madison did, if anything, to you?
Yeah.
What did she do?
She grabbed my right arm and she pulled me towards her and I lost my balance. So I moved towards her.
Did you consider that in that circumstance to be a gentle or a gracious touch?
No, that was not a gracious touch. No, not at all.
Had she been using any gentle or gracious words with you?
Not that I remember.
In those photos, can we see the footwear that you were wearing on that day?
Yep, those sandals that we saw earlier.
Did you have confidence in your footing in that area with those sandals?
Objection. Leading.
Sustained.
How did you feel about your footing in that area?
Very unstable.
I want to show you the next set of slides here. Do you remember what you say to Madison after she pulled on your right arm?
Yeah, I told her not to touch me
And why did you tell her that?
because she pulled on me without my invitation.
Did you say that in any particular tone?
No, not in a mean tone, but I made it sound so she could hear me. Don't touch me.
Okay. Why didn't you want her to touch you?
I didn't give her permission to do so.
Sure, but why did you not want to give her permission to do so?
because she was one track mind. She just wanted to get me away from that, point me down river and tell me to go there.
What's your comfort level at this point?
On a scale from 1 to 10, comfort level is very low.
Are you, if you had that same thing, a scale of like a fear scale, a 1 to 10 fear scale, right? And so with 10 being the most fearful you've ever been in your life, and 0, let's call 0 to 10 being the most safe you've ever felt. Where are you at here on a fear scale?
In that particular,
Yeah.
about 1.
Okay. So you're more uncomfortable, but not necessarily afraid. Is that what I understand?
Correct.
At, where was your group in relation to you then?
Was upriver.
And did you do anything in order, in relation to your group?
Yep.
What did you do?
I turned to them and I called them. I was trying to call them to come over and help me.
Are these slides, does this 2127, 2140, 2131, what does that show you doing?
I was waving at them and calling them to come over.
When you say you were calling them, did you do something physical or did you do something verbal or did you do both?
Physical.
Did you make any verbal comments at that point?
No.
Why not?
It was very loud. All around me was very loud. I don't think that anybody could have heard me 100 and some feet away.
With everybody else yelling, did you think your yelling was going to de-escalate or escalate the situation?
When everybody's raising their voice, I don't think having another raised voice would help the situation.
After you raised your hand to call for your friends, did you see Madison Cohn doing anything?
Oh yeah, she was looking towards her group, and then she waved to them to come over to her.
Is that what we're seeing here in 2261, 2262, and 2263? What do you see?
Yep, she's calling her group over.
Did you remember when she called her group over, did her group respond?
Yes.
Did they join that?
Yes.
Showing you now these slides, is that what you saw?
Yes.
I think we asked you questions before about Exhibit 104 with you with the blue dot and the other red dots. When you were, were you standing there with other people around you?
Yes.
When you were standing there in that moment with the other people around you after you've called your friends once, was that other group, did they appear to be afraid to you?
Afraid from me?
Afraid. Did they appear? When you look at them, do they look like they're in fear?
No, absolutely
What does it look
not.
like to you?
They're all laughing and enjoying themselves
At whose expense?
at my expense.
And
Speculation as to what these are.
Sustained. Speculation as to what other people think. Next question.
how did you feel in that moment when they were around you saying those things? Did you think they wanted you to join in their laughter?
No,
Did you want to join in their laughter?
no, absolutely not. It was-
Where, if this fear scale is going, is it staying at 1 or is it moving in a particular direction?
It's creeping up.
Showing you another set of slides here, 2328, 2311, 2382. Do you remember, what do you remember about that?
I remember the young boys are yelling, pointing at me, saying things that are not true.
Were you able to see, like in this next slide, this 2429, 2440, 2401, were you able to see as you stood there what everybody was doing? Were you able to scan and see that?
For a brief second, yes,
Okay.
they were very close. They were really close to me. I could see and hear them.
How about your fear scale there? Where is it? Where is it?
About 2 or 3.
I see in the one on the right there, you have your hand someplace. Can you tell me what you're doing with your right hand?
Yes, I'm reaching for my pocket knife.
Why?
Because at one point my fear was getting really high, and
Okay.
I was getting ready to pull it out.
Do you remember, other than what you've talked about, Madison Cohen pulling you, which we saw, do you remember anybody else touching, pushing, grabbing you in any way?
The 2 ladies, yeah.
Do you,
Madison.
showing you here what's 2472, 2478, 2481. Do you remember what's happening in those photos?
Yes. This one, the lady on my right side, she grabbed my arm and she was pushing against my arm.
And did that increase your level of comfort or increase your level of fear or something different?
So it decreased my level, the level of comfort, and increased my my fear.
Do you remember at some point, do you take your knife out of your pocket?
Yes, I do.
Do you know when that is in relation to these slides? Do you have a memory exactly of when that is?
Not exactly, but when they were pushing and poking at me, I remember I pulled it out then.
Okay. Do you remember, did you have it out before you were punched or after you were punched?
Before I was punched.
Showing you another set of slides here. It looks like do you remember doing something with your left hand?
Yeah, at that moment, I really needed my people to come over and help me. So I was trying to get their attention.
One more slide here. Do you, what's happening here in the slide?
Madison is pushing on my left shoulder and basically yelling at me right in my face.
And then on the next slide, we see something in your hand. Is that right?
That's a knife.
Why'd you take out your knife at that point?
I was beginning to be afraid.
And what was it about that moment where everybody is that made you so fearful that you took out your knife?
I was surrounded. They were yelling. They had just pushed me. Well, the lady, they squeezed my arm. I mean, it seemed like they were not backing away.
Previously, you turned around. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you feel comfortable turning around in this situation?
No,
Why not?
they're too close to me.
What happened the last time that you turned around?
Nothing good.
Judge, this
Good place to break.
may as well be.
All right, it's 12 noon. Let's break for lunch. You'll be taken downstairs to the assembly room again. Please, no conversation about the case amongst yourselves or with anybody else. Do not conduct any independent research or investigation. And excuse me, do not use your devices to access any news reports or social media accounts about this trial. Please take the jury out.
Fear scale. Okay. So I want to ask you about, at this time, what we see here, what you previously described the scene, right? How were you feeling on the fear scale?
About a 6, 7.
Okay. And at some point, I think you told them before, but just so we can put it into the context here, did you do something in response to something that was done to you when you're standing there in this moment?
Yes. After I was pushed, and both sides, I would say, squeezed. I was afraid, so I pulled out my knife.
Okay. Did you do something with your left hand at some point?
Yes, I did.
What'd you do with your left hand?
I pushed her away. I
When you
pushed
say you
Madison.
Push Madison away. Was the purpose in that to have contact with her and to get her to back up?
Yes.
Did you have a purpose to cause her pain?
No.
Were you trying to hurt her?
No.
What were you trying to do?
I was trying to push her away from my space. She was right in my space, in my face.
Why didn't you just back up?
Couldn't back up at that moment.
Okay. When you say you couldn't back up, why not? Because you felt uncomfortable, or were you
Objection leading.
Because I would have had.
Wait. There's an objection. Sustained on leading. Next question.
wasn't done with it? Were you uncomfortable, or was there a wall behind you, or was there some other reason? Why did you feel like you couldn't back up?
I didn't feel safe turning my back on those people.
Okay. How about just taking a step backwards?
Well, I was standing my ground. I didn't move towards anybody.
Okay.
They're coming at me.
When you raised your left hand and you did that, do you recall when you pushed her away having contact with her?
I may have, yes.
Okay. Do you remember in particular where, if at all, you touched her?
No.
Okay. Would it surprise you if you touched her?
No,
Was that, in fact, your purpose in pushing her away?
absolutely.
Okay.
She was in my space.
I want to move forward here. And you can turn the slide off, I guess. After you did that, right? Did something happen to you?
Yeah.
Did people do something to you?
Yeah.
What was done to you?
Yeah, almost right away, I got punched and fell in
And
the water
where did you get punched?
on my face, on my side of the head.
Now, you've had a chance to watch this video, correct?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to see these 4,800 slides?
Yes.
Prior to seeing that, did you remember everything?
No.
Have the video or the slides help you to refresh your memory in some way?
A lot.
Have you remembered everything because you've seen that?
Not everything, no.
Okay. Do you remember something different than what you see in the video?
No.
You don't remember any of the things different than that you see in the video? Like you talked about the goggles.
Objection leading.
Just trying to reorient the witness to a place where examination can continue.
Are there some times when your memory is different from what the video is?
Yes, of course.
Now, this series that I want to show you is about things that were done to you, okay?
Yes.
Do you have a specific memory about everything that was done to you?
No.
Do you have a specific memory about everything that you did in response to what was done to you?
No.
Do you have a memory about how you felt in those moments?
I would say yes, I do.
Do you have a memory of what you believed in those moments based upon those feelings?
Of course.
So I want to show you the slide here. Again, this is slide 2661, 2662, and 2681. That's fine. Do you remember how you felt when you fell back into the water?
I was, number one, I was stunned. That's why I fell backwards. I was very afraid, of course.
On this fear scale that you talked about before, where are you on that scale from 0 to 10? Have
Right at the top, 10.
you ever been at that 10 before in your life?
Never been in a situation like this or a fight in my life.
Have you ever been at a 10?
Never.
When you did that, as we see on the right, what happened to your head?
Oh, I fell in the water. Obviously, that's a river, and I hit my head on river rock, and my whole body went under. Well, my head went underwater.
When you say your head went under, is that what it felt like?
Yes,
Did you feel water come over your face?
over my
Objection.
entire body.
Hold on,
Yes.
hold on. What's the objection?
Leading.
Sustained.
Where did you feel the water on your body?
Over my face, my mouth.
Okay.
I felt like I was submerged in water at the moment.
Did you try to get up?
Yes,
Why did you want to get up? Why didn't you just lay down there peacefully in the water?
to drown. No, I wouldn't want to do that. I wanted to get up out of the water.
At that moment when you're down in the water, had anybody like AJ Martin come up to you and said, just lay there and rest?
Somebody came from behind. Yes, I found out later who he was and pushed me down and to keep me in the water.
Before that, when you tried to get up, do you remember feeling anything before that? Did you told them,
Yeah.
did you feel anything to any part of your head?
Yes, of course.
What did you feel?
Felt punched in the head.
Showing you the next slides. Is that 2701, 2705, 2706? What's happening to you there?
I'm getting hit on the head.
How many times at that point, is your memory of watching the video and your memory of experiencing this, have you been hit in the head now, but either by people or by the ground or by the water?
4 times at least.
At this point in time, where's your fear scale?
A 10.
When this happened to you, did you immediately get up or did you fall back in the water or did something else happen?
I tried getting up, but I couldn't.
Did you, at some point, did you feel something on your backside?
There was somebody pushing me down.
And when you felt that on your backside, did you feel anything else anywhere else?
I got hit in the face in the front of my head.
And is that exhibit here, 2147, do you see that hand through the underarm there?
Yes.
Do you remember getting hit in the head there?
Yes.
Was that a gentle hit?
No.
When you're getting hit in the head here again, where are you at on the fear scale at that point?
10.
Have you been able to get up out of the water?
No.
How many people do you know? How many people are attacking you?
At the time, I didn't know, but I knew there were more than I could handle.
Did it feel like it was, how many people did it feel like?
Like 10.
Okay. You've seen the video and you responded at some point, is that right?
Yes.
And you used your knife in response.
Yes.
Why do you use your knife?
I feared for my life.
Did you think you could get out of there without using your knife?
I couldn't even get up. They're pushing me down. No, so the answer is no.
In that time when you're down on the ground, did you think there was a way for you to escape?
No,
Did you feel like you could just crawl away or run away or walk away or do anything else to escape?
not in that position.
The next day after this, July 31st, were you in the, did you feel, how did your body feel the next day?
I hurt everywhere. My head hurt, my throat hurt. Obviously, my back hurt. I hurt everywhere.
You said your throat hurt. Is that something you remembered that day before when you were speaking with Brandy Hart?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you mention it to Brandy Hart?
I don't remember.
Did you see anything, when you felt the pain about your throat, did you see anything that refreshed your memory about what caused that pain to your throat?
After watching the video, yes.
What happened?
I got hit in the throat.
Do you remember that now?
Yes.
If I can. Showing you the slides 2993, 2994, and 2997. Is that you?
Yes.
What's happening to you there?
Somebody is going for my throat, squeezing my throat.
Do you remember how that felt?
I felt pain. I couldn't breathe.
Just think about that for a second. Look at their. Hey, Ash. Hi, everybody who came in. Right here, where somebody's grabbing his throat. I mean, it's like, look at the girl in the back. Then you've got the girl in the green bikini who's laughing. Like she's thinking this is funny. But what do you feel like in that moment? Hey, Georgina. What do you feel like in that moment? I would assume testify, terrified, like, oh, I don't know.
Scared, afraid.
And showing you the next set of slides here, 2998, 99, and 3000. What did you think was going to happen to you?
Her hand is around his throat, and she's not alone. She's not by herself. And when the prosecutor comes up, he's like, she weighs 115 pounds. She weighs 115 pounds. Well, that's not the point. The point isn't that she weighs 115 pounds. The point is she doesn't even know what's happening and she's choking him. She doesn't even know what's going on yet. And I wonder, see the girl here? I don't know if you can see who I'm talking about, but the girl right behind his head in the green bikini. I wonder if they got her video, because she videotaped the entire thing too.
In that moment?
The whole time I felt like I was going to die. So basically I feared for my life.
And in response to that, here's slide 3000. Did you do something in response to that?
I reached out and stabbed him.
when you used your knife, again, this is open-ended. You can ask it any way you want. Were you trying to kill somebody?
Absolutely not.
What were you trying to do?
I was just trying to defend myself.
After this was, again, we've seen the video, you talked to Investigator Hart. So I want to ask you a little bit about that for a moment. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Do you independently, well, let me say, you've watched the video here in court, correct?
Yes.
And you watched the video prior to that. We've watched it together, right?
Yes.
Does watching that video refresh your memory? Do you have an independent memory of that conversation with Investigator Hart?
No.
Do you remember what it is you said other than seeing things on the video?
Other than I lied about the knife. That's what I remember, afterward. Yeah, I lied about the knife.
Do you remember actually saying that in that moment, or you just remember seeing that and that's what you remember seeing?
I remember seeing it in the video.
Okay. Do you remember how you were feeling during that time at all? Do you have any memory about that?
Not much.
Just one other thing out of the timeline here. Since that time, we've heard testimony, you have a twin brother.
Yes.
Is he here in the courtroom?
Yes.
Objection relevance, Your Honor. Overruled. Debate continue.
Just briefly, because I want to ask you about conversations that you may have had with your twin brother. Just briefly. How do you feel about your twin brother?
I love him.
Objection, that's irrelevant, Your Honor.
During this time, have you had conversations with your twin brother?
Yes.
Do you consider there to be anybody that you're really, maybe your wife, anybody you're closer to than your twin brother?
No.
You and your twin brother, when you speak, what language do you speak in?
Romanian.
Why do you speak in Romanian with your twin brother?
It's the easiest way to find words to describe what we're thinking.
Okay. Is that where you grew up?
That's the first language.
Are there times when you've spoke with your brother that you've talked about this, what happened to you on the river?
Yes.
Is your memory about what you did or what was done to you, is it any better when you talk to your brother than it is when you talk about other times?
No.
Are you always getting it right?
No.
How about your feelings? Your memory about your feelings?
Mhm.
Do you get those right?
Yes, but almost all the time. The feeling is imprinted in my heart, my soul, my mind.
Let me, just for a moment, I'll bring us back to the river on July 30th, okay?
Mhm.
At some, I think you'd said on the video and maybe you testified that people attacked you, is that right?
Correct.
At some point, did people stop attacking you?
No.
At some point, did people stop attacking you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. When people stopped attacking you, what did you do?
I walk away.
Why didn't you stay?
Oh God. I walked away towards my group where it was safe. I was afraid of the people that I just had contact with.
When you're walking away, you've talked about this fear scale. Where are you on the fear scale? Does it just go down right to 0? Does it stay at 10? Does something else happen?
No, as soon as I saw the people I trusted, my fear level started creeping down.
When you say creeping down, when you're walking back, can you give us where are you on that scale?
As I was getting closer to my group, the fear factor is going lower and lower.
But when you first start walking back, what's the number level?
About 8,
When you get back to the tubes, what's the number level?
about 4, 5.
I think we didn't talk about it. We've talked a little bit about your body response during this
Mhm.
brief time. When you start walking back, how's your body responding to you?
I had cramps. I felt like I lost. I had diarrhea, so I felt like I lost in the bowel,
Was that
which I did.
Was that when you were walking back, or was that when you were in that 10 seconds of things happening to you and you responding?
I was when the action was going on in the 10-second frame.
You got diarrhea.
Yes.
When you were walking back,
Yeah.
what else is your body? What are you feeling with your body?
Well, heartbeat is getting, when I'm walking back, the heartbeat was very, very high. Now it's going down a little bit. Breathing, that's what I remember. I was super, super stressed.
How about your head? As you're going back, is your head clear? Is your head in a different state? How can you describe what's going on in your head?
My head was in a fog. It was like thick fog. I couldn't realize what I've been through.
Were you trying to make sense of it?
I was trying, but there was no sense to be made. I was completely confused and in a fog.
And when you walked away, you had the knife in your hand. Is that right?
Yep.
When you got to your group, did you still have the knife?
No.
What happened to the knife?
On the way back, I tossed it on the bank.
And you just made with your right hand kind of an underhand motion
Yep.
with your right hand from at your side, raising up to maybe level with you. Is that fair representation of what you were describing?
Correct.
Why'd you toss the knife?
I don't know. I was afraid. I felt like I had to throw it away.
What were you afraid of at that point?
I was overwhelmed with just fear, residual fear. And I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Okay. We've heard testimony that eventually you get back to the tubes. Does that happen?
Yeah.
Where's your memory about that? Right now, as you sit here, because we don't have a video about that, we don't have photos of that. What's your memory like about that?
Barely remember anything.
Do you remember talking to people?
I remember people trying to talk to me, but I don't know. I don't remember what I said.
Okay. You've heard some testimony about things that you might have said. Are you denying you said any of those things?
No.
You know what you said?
After watching the video, yes.
The video isn't, I'm confused. The tubes, there's no video of you at the tubes. When you say,
Oh, after.
were you talking about Brandy Hart statements?
Yes, yes.
Okay. About what you said to the people at the tubes. Do you have any memory of that?
No.
Okay. When you're sitting there at the tubes, how are you feeling in your head? You talked about this fog, right? If you can put that on a scale, where is that?
I still couldn't, my head was in a thick cloud. I couldn't understand what just happened. Still trying to process everything. I was overwhelmed.
Did you think at any point you were just casual about what had happened?
No.
Did this feel casual to you in any way?
No.
At some point, you saw the video here. You had contact with the police, is that right?
Yes.
You had sat in the back of a squad car of the Sheriff Knutson, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember much of anything about that?
No.
Do you remember, you've seen some of the videos today. Can you tell us, what do you remember?
Nothing.
Okay. Nothing at all? How about a feeling? Do you remember a feeling at all?
Yeah, I was still very afraid.
Okay. When you say very afraid, what were you afraid of at that point?
Well, I've been through a horror situation, but in their presence, I wasn't that afraid, but I was stunned. I don't remember much about it.
Do you remember watching the video here in court when the police were talking about a guy with a bat?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember anything about that?
A little bit.
Do you remember how that made you feel?
Oh, yeah. I felt very afraid of him. Very afraid.
We watched the video of you with Sheriff Knutson. That was about 23 seconds long. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Have you watched a longer portion of that video with your attorneys?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember saying more things to Sheriff Knutson after that?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. We saw a video here about your being arrested and told that you were arrested for homicide. Did you remember that?
After watching the video, memory came back, but I don't remember that.
Okay.
Naturally.
When you're talking with at some point you go and you meet with Investigator Hart, is that right?
Yeah.
When they were talking about homicides and injuries, can you tell me what's your mindset? Did that make sense to you? Did you understand that?
No, I couldn't make any sense of anything that she was telling me. I just couldn't make sense of it. Plus, I don't remember the meeting with her.
Okay. Right now, as you sit here, you're like, I don't remember.
Okay, I think they might be doing opening statements. So let's see. I don't know for sure. It looks like maybe. I don't know. Looks like people are like, why isn't there any sound? Just shh, it'll be okay. There's no sound. Here we go.
Which we'll do very shortly here. I also, as we are getting started and before the jurors are sworn and we'll take evidence, I believe we've already had a motion to exclude witnesses. Let me just clarify in the record, is there going to be a motion to exclude witnesses through evidence portion of the trial taken by the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. The court will reaffirm that there has been a motion to exclude witnesses. So as the state begins with this case, keep that in mind that they are not permitted to observe trial proceedings, including the live stream. The only exception would be for a witness if they statutorily qualify as a victim, then they are permitted to observe proceedings. So each witness is going to be questioned whether or not they've observed any trial proceedings, and I would instruct the state and then following the defense, if they have witnesses, to make sure that the exclusionary rule is followed. Does the state have any questions on that matter?
Your Honor, the state would just clarify and just make counsel in the court aware. It's the state's understanding that through the Constitution and statutorily, victims have a right to remain in the courtroom throughout the proceedings, regardless of whether or not they are victims. And we have discussed that with defense counsel and made the court aware of who we think there may be a crossover with, meaning individuals that may be present and also witnesses. But statutorily, they would have the right to be here. So including any of the defendant's children, as well as, since they were Tammy's children, as well as siblings, sometimes grandparents. The court made a ruling last year in the Vallow case. I think if we're following a similar guideline, those are the individuals that we would just note for the record may be present at times, but should have the right to be present throughout the proceedings. In addition, I would just note for the record that we do have our case agent who will be present for the duration of the proceedings, and that's Chief Deputy Vince Kaikamani.
Okay, and the state's permitted their case agent as it relates to victims. The court agrees they are permitted to see the proceedings, including if they are a witness, we would take up on a witness by witness basis whether or not they fall within the statutory qualifications permitting that. And I know the state's aware of the issue. We'll make rulings tested as to whether or not they would qualify and later called to testify. Mr. Pryor from the defense, any further comment or questions on the exclusionary ruling?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. All right, this time then we will have the jurors brought in.
Yes, sir.
All rise. Oh, the jury is present and accounted for.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bale. Please be seated. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. We're on the record on Fremont County case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. We're ready to proceed with opening arguments and initial instructions this morning to you as jurors. The court notes that the prosecution is present as well as the defendant and the defense attorney representing him as well. We have qualified this panel of 18 jurors consisting of our 12 jurors with 6 alternates, and they are now seated for trial. Let me start with the state and ask, will the state agree that the jury has now been properly seated and ready to be sworn?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Will the defense agree as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for returning this morning. You're now seated as jurors in the case before us. As previously been told, I'm Stephen W. Boyce, the District Judge of Fremont County in charge of this courtroom trial. I'll briefly reintroduce you to some of our court personnel assisting here today. Shannon Holstein, seated to my right, is the clerk who is keeping minutes of the trial proceedings, will be marking trial exhibits and administering oaths to you as jurors and to the witnesses. We do have our courtroom bailiffs as well who assist with keeping order in the courtroom and helping the jury move about where they're supposed to throughout the day, and in enforcing any conduct orders we have in effect here for the trial. Our court reporter today, Amy Bland, is taking a stenographic record of everything said during the trial proceedings, and my staff attorney, Courtney Stallings, is seated to the far right, who assists me with legal research and administrative matters that come up throughout each day of trial. Each one of you has been qualified, examined, and selected to serve as a juror of this court. The clerk will now have a roll call of our seated jurors. Please, Madam Clerk, if you would conduct the roll call. As to each juror, once your juror number is announced, please just indicate present or here verbally so we acknowledge that on the record. Madam Clerk.
Juror 27, present. Juror 219.
Here.
Juror 505.
Here.
Juror 631.
Here.
Juror 653.
Here.
Juror 686.
Present.
Juror 752.
Present.
Juror 1680. Present. Juror 823.
Here.
Juror 1358.
Here.
Juror 1365. Here. Juror 716. Here. Juror 751.
Here.
Juror 997.
Here.
Juror 1078. Juror 1577. Here. Juror 1271. Juror 1382.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This case has been brought by the state of Idaho. I'll sometimes refer to the state as the prosecution. State is here represented in this trial by Lindsay Blake, Fremont County Prosecutor. Ms. Blake, could you please stand briefly? Also, Rob Wood is the Madison County Prosecutor. Ingrid Beatty is a Special Assistant Prosecutor. And Rocky Wixom is a Fremont County Deputy Prosecutor. The defendant in this case, Mr. Daybell, is represented by his attorney, John Pryor. Thank you, counsel. In a few moments, the clerk will read you a redacted version of the amended indictment in this case. That document is not to be considered as evidence. It sets forth the charges against the defendant. You must not consider it as evidence of guilt and not be influenced by the fact that charges have been filed. Mr. Daybell has pled not guilty to the charges contained in the amended indictment. And please remember, again, it's a description of charges. It is not evidence. Under our law and system of justice, every defendant is presumed to be innocent. This means two things. First, the state has the burden of proving the defendant guilty. The state has that burden throughout the trial. The defendant is never required to prove his innocence, nor does the defendant ever have to produce any evidence at all. Second, the state must prove the alleged crimes beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible or imaginary doubt. It is a doubt based on reason and common sense. It may arise from a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence or from a lack of evidence. If after considering all the evidence you have a reasonable doubt about the defendant's guilt, you must find the defendant not guilty. The duty of the jury is to determine the facts and then apply the law set forth in the instructions I will later give you to those facts. In this way, you will decide the case. In applying the court's instructions as to the controlling law, you must follow those instructions regardless of your opinion of what the law is or what the law should be or what any lawyer in the state the law to be. During this course of the trial, including opening statements, you're instructed that you are not to discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else, including using the internet or social media or any other form of communication, electronic or otherwise. Do not conduct any personal investigation or look up any information from any source, including the internet. And do not form an opinion as to the merits of the case until after the case has been submitted to you for your determination. The court's given you that instruction now multiple times, and I will continue to give you that instruction. And again, that's not because I don't think you're not paying attention. It's just important enough. We'll keep reiterating that. And I will note we received the juror affirmations today from each of the jurors indicating they have followed that instruction. So thank you for that. At this time then, the next matter we'll take up is to have this jury placed under oath for trial. At this time then, Madam Clerk, if you're ready to administer the oath, I'll have the jurors stand and be placed under oath. When you stand, then please raise your right hands.
You solemnly swear or affirm you will try the cause now on trial and a true verdict rendered herein according to the law and the evidence, so help you God.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. All right, the jurors have already been advised of some of our trial procedures in this case, and I'll just give you some additional general information here. Our normal schedule is to run trial from 8:30 each day until 3:30. At times that will need to be modified for certain reasons. Sometimes we have matters to be argued outside of your presence. Sometimes during the recesses, they may seem to go long because we're conducting other court business outside of your presence. But we will take recesses through the morning and also in the afternoon. If anyone is uncomfortable, needs a break or recess for some specific reason, please notify the bailiff and we'll do our best to accommodate each of you and keep you comfortable while you're here. In addition, if anyone has any kind of accommodations they need, for example, assistance with a hearing device, other matters, please notify the bailiff again, and we want to make sure you are as comfortable as you can be and able to be alert and attentive throughout the presentation of evidence in the case. These seats that you have been assigned to at this time will be your specific seat throughout the trial. Please return to that same assigned seat each day or after each break so that we are able to determine who's here and if someone's not for some reason, who's not here. If there are interruptions at times during the trial, I know that can be frustrating, but we'll work our best to keep those to a minimum, move the trial as long as efficiently as possible, but at times it just takes time to hear motions that are necessary outside of your presence. And then the courtroom and your location for deliberations, as well as during the trial where you'll be held. We've provided, of course, access to restrooms and other needs you may have. I'll address your compensation here. State law allows you for $10 a day for your jury service. However, after 5 days, that bumps up to $40 a day. So this trial is expected to go some time. You'll likely get into that increased range of compensation, and that's pursuant to Idaho Code 2215. You're also entitled, I believe, to a mileage reimbursement for travel each day, and that can further be explained to you if you have any questions. Also, you may notice from time to time, or a lot of the time, I'm looking at monitors here during the trial. I do have case information here and availability to access and research things from the bench. And so if you notice me looking at those monitors, it's generally to assist me in trial issues that come up. At this time, then the court will provide the jury with some additional jury instructions. As I read through these, it's somewhat lengthy, and I will notify that you don't have to necessarily memorize everything I'm saying. When the trial is concluded and you deliberate, you will have printed copies of these instructions to return to for reference. And if you'll give me just a moment here, I have a brief inquiry to make with my staff attorney. All right, thank you. Now that you've been sworn as jurors to try this case, I'll go over with you what will be happening. I will describe how the trial will be conducted and what we will be doing. At the end of the trial, I'll give you more detailed guidance on how you are to reach your decision. Because the state has the burden of proof, it goes first. After the state's opening statement, the defense may make an opening statement or may wait until the state has presented its case. The state will offer evidence that it says will support the charges against the defendant. The defense may then present evidence that is not required to do so. If the defense does present.
All right. So the jury instructions could take a while. I can keep an eye on those and take us back to Apple River while they're just giving the instructions. If you've ever watched a case, you already know what jury instructions are, so you don't really need them. So we'll hop back over to Apple River and continue with his boop. Hold on. Dun, 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 dun. We can continue with his testimony for now. I do have it on 1.5.
What you saw happening or heard happening or what you did. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you get all of that right?
No.
Your feelings, when you were talking about your feelings about and how you believed and your fear.
I feared for my life. That's one thing I can't deny. That's embedded in my head forever. I feared for my life. I know that. I have nightmares.
You've talked to, or yeah, Tell us about those nightmares.
I have them every night.
What happens in those nightmares?
Objection, Your Honor.
It's,
These nightmares are irrelevant. The fact that he had them, maybe, but not the content. No.
can I approach?
Yes. Yes.
It too.
They pushed me down. They threw me in the water. I hit my head. Yes. So
When you decided to use your knife, were you using it to prevent an attack or stop the attack that was happening?
to defend myself.
Did you believe you needed to use that knife?
Absolutely.
In that moment in time, again, as you've described it, they pushed you down into the water and you've been punched. That's the moment of time I want to ask you about, okay?
Yeah.
In that moment of time when you were down in the water, did you believe you could escape?
No.
What do you believe would have happened to you had you not used your knife?
I would have died. I believe I would have been killed that day.
Why'd
At
you,
that specific time
why'd you use your knife?
to defend myself.
Those are the only questions I have, Judge.
It's just missed out. An approach, Judge. You've been drinking that day, right?
Yeah, I had a
And
Like
showing like
beers.
the mark, Exhibit 12A. You recognize that?
yes,
That's a group photo of you folks from the beginning of the river. In fact, you're holding a beer.
correct.
It's like everybody in your group has some sort of alcoholic beverage.
Looks like it.
You see numerous people in your group with these phone cases around their necks.
Yeah.
And as you're going down the river, you saw lots of people with phone cases around their necks, right?
Mhm.
All day long?
Yeah.
In fact, River's Edge sells or rents out those phone cases, right?
I don't know that.
Did people in your group rent or buy phone cases from the tube rental?
I have no idea.
Right? You've testified that you were told to bring the knife before you left your home, right?
Correct.
And the reason for bringing your knife on the river was to cut strings or ropes for the tubes, right?
Correct.
And that was the reason you brought it.
Correct.
In fact, you told the police that after your tubes were tied together, you thought you put your knife back in the car, right?
Correct.
But in fact, it was in your pocket.
Yes.
Was it in your pocket the whole day?
No.
All right, well, we're going to get to that. Once the tubes are tied together with the rope, and you said that you thought you put it back in your car, you don't have a reason to have the knife anymore, right? It accomplished its purpose, right?
I didn't know that at the time.
All right. Did you tell the cops, the police, that you didn't think you were going to need it, and that's why you thought you put it in the car?
I may have.
All right. Were you present when Steve Kaufman, who owns River's Edge, testified first day of the trial?
Yes.
And you heard him say that they sell pre-cut cords for $1, right?
Right.
All right. And then, did you see in the picture, when you got on the river, you were wearing that long sleeve camel shirt, right?
Mhm.
A hat and sunglasses?
Correct.
All right. Ariel's phone was in one of those cases, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I can see it.
All right. And is it your understanding that those cases are float cases?
That's what I was told.
All right, and in fact, you told Lieutenant Hart that it was in a float case, right?
Correct.
Once the phone disappeared, there was conversation amongst the folks in your group about whether it was even worth it to go look for it, right?
That's what I learned.
And in fact, you were told that they didn't care about the lost phone because they had insurance to cover it, right?
That's what I learned here, but I don't remember that as a conversation.
Nobody asked you to go look for the phone, right?
Correct.
You chose to do that on your own.
I volunteered.
And in fact, members of your group were a little annoyed that you were stopping again so quickly after having been at the hideaway where you'd stopped for lunch.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained. Did you hear anybody in your group say, why are we stopping again?
I didn't stop the group.
The group stopped when you decided to go off on your own to look for this phone, right?
Speculation.
Overruled. Right?
They already stopped. I got off the tube to look for so I didn't stop them.
In any event, you're the one who insisted on looking for it. Nobody asked you to do that, right?
Objection, that's an answer.
Sustained. And when you left to go look for the phone, you had your goggles and your snorkel, right? You knew that the phone was in a float bag. At least that's what you told police afterwards, right?
Mhm.
So yes.
Yes,
So the phone in the float bag would have been floating, right?
supposedly, yeah.
All right. And so you wouldn't need a snorkeling goggles to find a phone floating on top of the water, right?
I wasn't sure if it was actually floating or not. Never tested it.
All right. Well, you would agree that a phone has some weight to it.
Yes,
And if it wasn't a float bag, it would sink to the bottom, right?
yes,
Where it was dropped.
correct. Well, or remember, it's a river, so it could have flown down.
The river has current, right?
Right. So it could
I'm going to
have
approach. I'm going to draw something here. Yes. Now, you remember when you met with Lieutenant Hart, you drew a diagram of the river. All right, and this is your group up here at the sandbar, right?
Mhm.
This is the boys' group down here. I'll put initials IS for Isaac Schumann, right?
Correct.
This is the diagram that you wrote,
Mhm.
drew for Lieutenant Hart. The phone was lost over here, right?
Mhm.
Instead of looking downstream for it, where the current was going, you went this way, across the current.
No.
To look for the phone. You made contact with Isaac Schumann's group on the other side of the river.
But that's not where I started looking for it. Straight across the river.
That's where you ended up making contact with
I
him.
ended up there, but I didn't start there.
All right. The phone would not have floated across the current, right?
Well, I don't know where he lost it. That's where we pulled over. He could have lost it minutes before we even anchored.
So when you testified a minute ago that the phone was lost, where your group was labeled M, now you're changing that story?
In that vicinity.
Objection. Mischaracterizes testimony.
Again, members of the jury, what the attorneys say is not evidence. Rely on the witness's testimony. Next question, please. In any event, it's your testimony that you had reason to go over to the south side of the river where Isaac Schumann's group was to look for a phone. That's your story?
I had reason to search in that area. I didn't know where that phone fell in the water. I don't think even Ariel knew where he lost it. We didn't drop the phone when we anchored. He dropped the phone before we got there.
Fair to say that at that point in the river is 150 feet wide?
Yep.
And Isaac Schumann's group was on the south side of the river?
Correct.
Your group's on the north side of the river?
100 feet.
Rather than searching the north side, you went to the south side of the river. Is that fair to say?
I already looked in that area.
That's not what I'm asking. You went over to the south side of the river, right?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled. You can answer the question. You did, right?
What was that question?
You
again?
went over to the south side of the river to supposedly look for this phone, right?
I ended up there at that point. Yes.
And you chose to go over there and look for it, where these boys were.
Asked and answered.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
Oh.
You chose to go over to where these boys were to supposedly look for this phone, right?
Chose to look in that area. Yes.
There was other areas of the river where these boys weren't located that you could have searched until they floated past. Right?
A million other spots.
Sure. But you chose to go to that spot.
I didn't even notice those boys there at the time when I was searching.
You were present in court when Eric Williams, who was a member of your group, testified, right?
Right.
You heard him testify?
Yes.
And you were here when he testified that he had some concerns about you going over to snorkel by this group, Isaac's group.
I heard him.
And one of his concerns is that he thought that they would think you were a predator, right?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained. You testified that you didn't have your knife in your pocket the whole time, right?
Correct.
When you decided to go snorkel over by Isaac Schumann's group, you had the knife in your pocket.
Yes.
Did you go back to your group and get it?
No, I had the knife. I testified I did not have the knife in my pocket the whole time. When we pulled over there, I fixed my shoes. Then I left it in my pocket.
All right, but somehow, so when you get ready to snorkel,
Yes.
you're taking off your shirt, right?
Yes.
Your hat,
Yes.
your sunglasses.
Correct.
You left the knife in your pocket.
I forgot it in my pocket.
Well, on the video, we can see you touching your knife, right? You knew it was in your pocket.
Well, when you walk, it starts, yeah, but
It has weight,
Right,
right?
yeah.
So you can't forget it's there because it's got weight, correct?
at some point I forgot I had it in my pocket. When, yeah.
You
when
weren't.
walk.
You were not going to need your knife to snorkel and look for a lost phone.
Correct.
Asked and answered.
Overruled. You weren't going to need your knife for that task that you set out to do, right?
I wouldn't even need anything.
But you brought it with you anyhow.
It happened to be in my pocket, yes.
Once you got over to where Isaac Schumann's group was, they made it readily apparent they did not want you over by them, correct?
That's not true.
They didn't call you names?
Yes, but they asked me what I was looking for. And I thought they were polite people. I said, I'm looking for my lost phone.
They did not want you by them, and they told you that, right?
At some point, yes.
And that's the short video. You turn around and you're walking away, right?
Yes.
But then Juan Cockfield calls you a raper, right?
Yes.
And then you turn around
Yes.
and you were angry.
I was not angry.
You were not angry that someone called you a raper.
No.
All right. You look at Juan, who's filming you, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason, your testimony is that even though many people on the river have these phones and these float cases, you decided that was the phone and you needed to run up and check.
Objection argumentative.
Sustained. Your testimony earlier was you thought you had the phone, right?
I thought he had the phone, yes. I wanted to investigate.
And you, instead of walking up and saying, hey, is that the phone I'm looking for? You ran up on these boys, didn't you?
I ran up and stumbled, and then I fell right by there, yes.
That's my next question. You're claiming now that you stumbled.
Yes.
You've never said that before today, ever, to anybody, any law enforcement or anybody else, right?
But I have seen the videos now.
Well, we're going to take a look at the video. And since you reviewed the video, you know that before you ran up on them, you were touching your knife in your pocket to make sure it was there, right?
I don't remember that.
Well, let's take a look. That's you with your right hand touching your pocket where your knife was clipped in, right?
It appears so.
What is he on? Whoa, 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 get away.
So you're claiming today that where you reach down and grab at these boys' legs where their tubes are, that was a stumble. Is that your story?
Objection argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
I know I hit a stone, yes. But I grabbed onto their inner tubes.
And you know where you grabbed onto their inner tube is where two of these boys had their legs draped over their inner tubes, right?
I see that.
And you made contact with their legs, didn't you?
I don't remember that.
Did you see it on the video?
I see it on the video. I don't remember actually making contact.
And as soon as you did that, these boys jumped out of their tubes to get away from you, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And you held onto their tubes so that their tubes couldn't float away.
For how long?
Well, I'm asking you. You did.
Yeah, it looks like for a brief 1 second.
And you were searching through their tubes.
Or what?
You walked around their tubes. Rather than letting their tubes go so they could get back in their tubes and be on their way, you walked around their tubes.
So after my goggles dropped in the water, I went around their tubes to go to the other side and look for my goggles.
Let's talk about your goggles for a second, because you told the police, specifically Lieutenant Hart, that these boys knocked your goggles off your face and that you were looking for your goggles at that point, right?
I don't remember my interview with her, correct?
But you heard yourself say it in the interview.
Yes, yes.
And in fact, that nothing of the sort ever happened, right?
So the interview with Brandy Hart was not accurate.
What you said at the time is what you wanted the police to believe happened, right?
That's what I remembered at the
Okay.
time.
And from the video, you can see that you actually put your goggles in your mouth, so you have two free hands to be able to grab onto these boys' tubes, right?
Yes.
So you were preparing for your stumble before it actually even happened?
I wasn't prepared for anything.
These boys were calling you names to go away, right? After you grabbed onto their tubes, touched their legs.
I don't remember any of that stuff.
All right, you don't remember them calling you, asking you what you were doing?
Watching the videos, yes, but unnatural remembering, no.
Do you remember as you're running up, they're saying, whoa, 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 what's he doing?
I don't remember that.
All right, you've seen it on the video.
Yes.
And then once you've made contact with two of these boys' legs and grabbed onto their tubes, they started calling you a pedophile, right?
I don't remember when they started calling me.
Do you remember them calling you a pedophile at all? Or do you just know that from watching the video?
Correct.
You testified that they were calling you names earlier, right?
Right.
And that upset you.
It did not upset
Okay,
me.
your attorneys talked about your comfort scale and your fear scale. Let's talk about your anger scale, okay?
Mhm.
At the time you were called a raper, what was your anger scale at?
Maybe 1.
1 out of 10?
Yeah.
And that was enough to get you to run up on these boys, grab onto them, stop their tubes. At a 1. Is that what you're saying?
Objection argumentative has not been said.
You don't like being humiliated, right?
Nobody does.
Your attorney has said that these boys were humiliating you.
Objection as to his.
Oh, Sustained on the form.
you're claiming that you were being taunted.
Objection, did not testify to that.
Sustained. Form.
You had testified earlier that your shoes, there was problems with your shoes, but as you can see from the portion of the video we played so far, those shoes didn't prevent you from running up on these boys, right?
Yes, they did. That was, if I had better shoes, you know, I could walk better, but I could still walk.
If you had better shoes, you would have been able to run up on them faster.
No, I mean, I could walk better. I wouldn't stumble. I wouldn't have a hard time walking.
All right, we're gonna watch the video again, and I want you to, if you can, point out for everybody where you stumbled.
What is he on? Whoa! 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 Get away!
Did you watch it?
Yes,
So the stumble, is that something you remember or something that you think you see in the video?
something I remembered.
After you grabbed onto their tubes, stopped them, walked around their tubes, you took a few steps downriver and stood in the path they were floating in, right?
Objection as to form. Multiple.
Overruled. You understand the question, Mr. Mew?
Could you say it again?
After you left their tubes that first time, you took a few steps downstream and stood in their path where they would need to float, where they were floating, right?
For a few seconds, yes.
You didn't walk off to the south shore, which was close at that point, right?
I thought I walked far away from them. That they, I mean, I didn't even watch them anymore at that point, so I don't know where they were in you know, at that point in time. But I was still looking for my goggles. Now,
Are you denying that you stood right in the path of their tubes?
Objection argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
at that moment in time, yes.
Now, when you ran up on these boys and grabbed onto their tubes and made contact with their legs, you weren't saying anything at that point, right?
No.
You didn't say anything like, hey, I think that's my phone or Ariel's phone.
I don't remember saying anything.
You've seen the video.
Right.
You just ran up and grabbed onto them,
It appears that.
but saying nothing. We can go up to the screen. We're going to look at some more frames here. We're starting 22nd mark, I believe. You stood in front of their tubes, right? This is at the 23-second mark.
For a brief moment.
All right, keep going. Stop. At that point, you had the entire river open to move in any direction, right?
Right.
You chose to just walk a few steps directly downstream from where their tubes were, right?
Correct.
The boys were yelling at you at this point, right? You remember that?
Yep.
They were making a commotion, right? They were loud,
Mhm.
and that attracted the attention of the folks in the Carlson group, right?
Mhm.
You've testified that Maddie Cohen walked over, right?
Yep.
You walked towards her,
Yes.
and the water level at the spot that you had contact with Maddie was about ankle deep from the video.
From the video, yes.
And you told Lieutenant Hart you were standing in really shallow water, right?
Yep.
Maddie told you to leave the area, right?
She didn't say it that way, but yes.
She said, go, go, go.
And
Just like she swore you to, but she was telling you to go, right?
Yeah.
You didn't go.
I was trying to communicate with her what I was doing in the river.
You didn't leave, right?
No, not down the river.
Hold on.
Objection irrelevant. No legal basis.
Overruled. It's relevant.
You did not leave, right?
I
At the
didn't
time
go
that
in
she
that
came up
direction. No,
When she came up and said, go, 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 you chose to stay, right?
I wanted to talk.
You didn't like that she was yelling at you, right?
I only had like 2 or 3 seconds of direct verbal or whatever.
And you clearly didn't like she was swearing at you, right?
Right.
And what you told her was not that you were looking for a phone, but that these boys took your goggles, right?
I don't remember what I told her.
If it's on the video, did you say it?
If it's on the video, yeah,
You never mentioned you were looking for a phone.
I don't remember my conversation with her.
In fact, after you told her that they took your goggles, you never said another word, right?
After that?
Right.
Of course I did.
Talking about your anger scale, at the point where Maddie Cohen was yelling at you and pointing at you and swearing at you, where was your anger scale?
1.
And even with your anger scale being only 1, you started fidgeting with the knife in your pocket, right?
I don't remember that.
Let's take a look at the video. We're ready. It's timestamp 135. That's you touching your knife in your pocket, right?
Correct.
And at this point, you've got your back to the two girls who were yelling at you, right?
It's possible.
So even though you were fearing for your life,
Objection. No, we said at that time.
Overall, let's get the question out.
you turned your back on these folks, right?
Where am I in that location as reference to the other people?
I get to ask the questions at this point. Okay.
All right.
You're back at the 135 mark that we just watched. You've turned your back on these folks, right?
Okay.
Is that true?
Yes, I see
Side,
that. Yeah.
Right. You're touching your knife, but you got your back to them, right?
I see that in the picture.
And so at that point, you wouldn't have turned your back on these folks if you had fear of them, right?
Objection mischaracterizes his testimony.
Overruled. You can answer the question. Yes.
We'll play a
Just
clip.
ask that
Here.
next question, please.
We're going to play a clip here, Judge. We're starting at 126. Just play it. We can have the screen.
Sex, money, and power led him to pursue those ambitions. And this pursuit led to the deaths of his wife and Lori's students and children. Chad Daybell is an author who wrote books about the apocalypse. During this trial, you will hear a story more troubling. And the story is real. Chapter 1. The defendant was a seemingly ordinary man. You'll see that he craved significance. He worked in journalism and he worked as a sexton in a graveyard. He married his wife Tammy in 1990 after meeting at Brigham Young University, and they settled in Utah. As a full-time homemaker and mother, Tammy's love for her family was boundless. Together, Tammy and the defendant started a small publishing company, which Tammy supported in many ways. They had 5 children together. They moved to Idaho, where Tammy became a beloved school librarian. She was devoted to service, her community, and her faith. But for this defendant, that ordinary existence was not enough. Chapter 2. Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. Your Honor, this might just.
Sorry, Mr. Lee. Let's see if we get a replacement mic.
I think I got it working now.
Okay.
I noticed that the PowerPoint is not up.
Yeah, I think your mic's off. Yeah,
Okay, I didn't turn it off this time, so
you might have a bad battery. You want to confirm the screen as well?
Your Honor, it's up on the screen and it's plugged into the HDMI. I'm not sure why it's not. Transfer. I don't know if there's any one person out with that.
Let's see if we can get some help to maybe see if we can get the signal to work on that.
Sorry. Can I proceed?
Yeah, but I'm still not sure on the mic. Is that not working?
Check.
Okay, thanks.
Apologies for the interruption. Writing down. Chapter 2. Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. She was married to her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, and she was the mother to Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Tylee was a normal, vibrant teenage girl. She loved her friends. You'll hear that she loved her Jeep. She loved Chipotle. She loved her little brother, JJ. JJ was a 7-year-old boy on the autism spectrum. He required extensive special care needs. He loved his sister. You'll hear about a pivotal date that set in motion the deaths of Tammy, Tylee, and JJ. October 26, 2018. That was a day when Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow met at a religious conference in St. George, Utah, where they were introduced by a mutual acquaintance. At this time, both still married to other spouses. That introduction set in motion the reality you're going to hear about. We know what happened next through the defendant's own words. You'll hear. Though both married, Chad and Lori began to have an affair. You will hear excerpts from the defendant's extended text messages to Lori that reveal his mindset and his motivations. In his thirst for sex, power, and money, Chad created an alternate reality where they called themselves James and Elena, names that Chad claimed were from past lives they had lived together. The defendant's text messages reveal their story of lust and their plan for a future together. Chad Daybell wrote that upon meeting Lori Vallow, he experienced a happiness unmatched by anything else in his 50 years. He was captivated by her appearance, so much so, he said she was out of his league. You will hear evidence in his own words, how he was taken by her beauty and spoke about their sexual encounters on many occasions. More than anything else, Chad's obsession with Lori was rooted in her adoration for him. She was the mirror reflecting the grandeur he saw in himself. He called her an exalted goddess. He told her in writing that she had returned to earth to perform a special mission. And part of that mission included being with him. They soon came together and turned their dreams into a plan for the future. One free from what they called obstacles. And those obstacles were Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. Chapter 3. You'll hear that in the world that Chad and Lori planned for themselves, they identified those who stood in the way of their dream as dark. Their spouses, Lori's own children, and any who opposed them were labeled sometimes as dark spirits or even zombies. This was more than an alleged belief of right-wing labor. The evidence will show that it was a convenient narrative that dehumanized people who stood in their way and who were labeled as obstacles. This narrative gave them the pretext to remove people from this world for their own good. Chad and Lori preached that only through spiritual intervention, what they sometimes called casting, sometimes through burning, or even through death, that these dark spirits be cleansed. Enter Alex Cox, Lori's devoted brother. Chad and Lori manipulated Alex with promises of spiritual rewards. They wielded their influence over Alex, drawing him into their plotting and planning of their own future. After the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, Chad Daybell gave Alex a blessing. This blessing was reported by Lori, who was present. And in that blessing, he said to Alex, "You have earned the privilege to be a member of their exclusive religious group." And he also said to him, "You have already assisted us in ways that can never be repaid." But you will also see other text messages. Chad and Lori discussed more earthly concerns, that Alex could be the one to implicate them. Alex knew this as well. Shortly before he died, on December 12th, 2019, he told his wife, Zulana Pastenis, who you will hear from, he was afraid he was going to be Chad and Lori's fall guy. Chapter 4. Once their calculated plan was devised, it only took months to execute and remove perceived obstacles in Chad Daybell's path to a new life. Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, who was labeled as dark by the defendant, was shot and killed by Alex Cox in Arizona. Lori stood to gain $1 million, money that could fund Chad and Lori's future. Yet following Charles's death, Lori Vallow awaited a $1 million life insurance payout that never came, only to learn that the beneficiary was no longer her. Upon learning she would not receive that insurance money, Lori would text Chad, "I'll still get the $4,000 a month from SS, meaning Social Security." Chad replied to her in a text that read, "It will be interesting to see if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest." Tylee Ryan, also branded dark and a zombie, was last seen on September 8th, 2019. Subsequent investigations revealed the horrifying truth. Her remains, charred and dismembered, were found in a grave on Chad Daybell's property. Without Charles's $1 million in insurance money to support them, Lori Vallow continued to illegally receive Tylee's Social Security benefits, provided after the death of Tylee's biological father, who had been Lori's 3rd husband. According to this defendant, J.J. Vallow, Lori's son, was also possessed. After he was labeled as a dark entity, his fate was no less tragic than his sister's. His young life was also claimed. Later, his bound body was discovered buried in Chad's backyard, his death by suffocation. Yet while JJ was missing, Lori continued to illegally receive JJ's Social Security benefit, money provided by Charles Vallow's dad. Tammy Daybell, a vivacious, healthy mother, was another individual labeled as a dark spirit to be removed. On October 9th of 2019, she reported being shot at night near her home by a man covered in black. She thought it was a paintball gun. On October 19th, 10 days later, she died in her own home with her husband present. This was soon after an increase in the value of her life insurance to more than $400,000. This defendant rapidly cashed in that life insurance and began looking for condos in Hawaii with Lori. You'll see the rental application he submitted for a couple with no kids. Medical examiners would later determine that the only reasonable explanation for Tammy's death was not of natural causes, but rather a homicide. In fact, you will hear from multiple witnesses that Chad predicted multiple times that Tammy would die in early death. Chapter 5. 17 days after his wife's death, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow got married and celebrated on a beach in Kauai, Hawaii, symbolizing what he called their eternal union. Chad and Lori were preparing their wedding well before Tammy's death. Lori was shopping for wedding rings while Tammy was still alive. Now, without the earthly obstacles of spouses and young children, and with Tammy's insurance policy and the children's Social Security funds, they could live the life that Chad and Lori wanted. Nothing was going to stand in their way. Chapter 6. Unfortunately for this defendant, reality soon shattered their bliss. 2 things led law enforcement to his and Lori's door. On October 2nd, 2019, Lori Vallow's nephew-in-law, a man named Brandon Boudreaux, was shot at in Arizona by someone from what he believed was Tylee's Jeep. Law enforcement in Arizona investigating Brandon's shooting contacted law enforcement in Fremont County, Idaho, to look for Alex Cox and for Tylee's Jeep. And you'll hear that that Jeep was later found in Rexburg, Idaho, in Madison County. Meanwhile, J.J. Vallow's grandmother, concerned that she hadn't seen or heard from him in months, asked police for help. The police followed up and located Lori in Rexburg, Idaho, where the police did a welfare check at Lori's apartment. Law enforcement arrived at Lori's door on November 26, 2019. When asked about Lori, Chad first told law enforcement he didn't know her very well, despite the fact that they were married and had been in a relationship for over a year. Lies by Lori to police about JJ and Tylee's whereabouts, and then a move to Hawaii, and Lori's unwillingness to present her children to law enforcement to prove their well-being led to her arrest and extradition. As Lori refused to produce her children, law enforcement continued their search for Tylee and JJ. During that search, they located a unique text message that this defendant, Chad Daybell, had sent to his wife, Tammy, on September 9, 2019, which was the day after Tylee Ryan's last known appearance. You'll hear from the FBI agent who found that message, but this message seemed longer than his usual text to Tammy, and it had a more conversational tone. In that text, Chad claimed he'd had an interesting morning, that he'd shot a raccoon, that he'd buried it in what they called the pet cemetery, and that he'd had a fire on the property where he burned some wood debris. When law enforcement finally went to the defendant's property the following June, they didn't find a raccoon. They found Tylee's burnt remains were buried in the pet cemetery. And they found JJ nearby, buried under a tree near a pond. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been told this will be a lengthy trial. You will hear from many witnesses. You will hear a lot of evidence. You're going to hear a lot of dates. The following is just a timeline of major events to help understand when these things took place. October 26, 2018, Chad and Lori meet in St. George, Utah. July 11, 2019, Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, shot and killed by Alex Cox. Between August 31st and September 1st, Lori, Alex Cox, and Tylee and JJ moved to Rexburg, Idaho, just a few miles south of the defendant's home. Tylee's last known sighting was September 8, 2019. The text I just spoke of about the raccoon was sent by the defendant to his wife September 9, 2019. JJ's last known sighting you'll hear about September 22nd. The attempted homicide of Brandon Boudreaux in Arizona was October 2nd. The shooting I mentioned of Tammy, the shooting at her, the unsuccessful shooting, October 9th, 2019. Tammy's death, October 19th, 2019. 17 days later, Chad and Lori marry in Hawaii. Law enforcement did a welfare check looking for JJ November 26, 2019 in Rexburg, Idaho. November 26th and 27th, Chad and Lori leave town. June 9th, 2020, Tylee and JJ's remains are found on Chad's property. As I said, you're going to hear a lot of evidence from a lot of witnesses. And there's going to be kind of different groups of evidence you're going to hear from. You'll hear from law enforcement, some of whom will give you a broad overview of the investigation and what they did, how the search for Tylee and JJ drew to a case of murder. You'll hear how it began by people who knew Lori and Chad. The James and Elena. You'll hear about the James and Elena story and about their relationship with each other and how they pursued their dream, their plan for a life together. You'll hear in the defendant's own words, people referred to as obstacles, how they need to be gotten rid of. You're going to hear financial evidence. You'll hear from an FBI forensic accountant and a detective, a Social Security administrative investigator who will talk about the finances involved in this case. You'll hear more from law enforcement, from multiple law enforcement agencies, the Rexburg Police, the Fremont County Sheriff's Department, the FBI, Social Security Administration, about the investigation into these crimes. You will see forensic evidence. You'll see DNA testing to identify the body of Tylee. You'll see DNA testing that showed that DNA from Tylee was found on at least 2 tools in the defendant's shed. You'll hear digital evidence dealing with geolocation data tied to certain phones that were used in this case. You'll hear from Hawaii law enforcement about searches they performed in Hawaii on the defendant and his wife. And finally, you will hear many of this defendant's own words. You will hear voice recordings of this defendant. You'll hear, recorded phone calls between him and his wife, Tammy Daybell. You'll read multiple texts that he and Lori sent back. Another text he sent. Chapter 9, what's unwritten. The defendant stands before you today, charged with multiple crimes. First-degree murder for the death of Tammy Daybell. First-degree murder for the death of Tylee Ryan. First-degree murder for the death of J.J. Vallow. Conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell. Conspiracy to commit murder and grand theft by deception, the death of Tylee Ryan. Conspiracy to commit murder and grand theft by deception for the death of J.J. Vallow, and insurance fraud. Two dead children buried in this defendant's backyard. The next month, his wife dead in their bed. 17 days later, this defendant marries Lori Vallow. Members of the jury, days or probably weeks from now, when the evidence in this trial is fully unfolded, we will have the opportunity to speak with you again. And at that time, we will ask you to end this horrible narrative. Your verdict will be the link that writes the final chapter of this tragic saga. A chapter that delivers justice for Tammy, justice for JJ, and justice for Tylee. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wood. That will conclude the opening statement of the state. Mr. Pryor, a couple of questions. First, is the defense going to give an opening statement now or defer until later? And second, if you are going to give an opening statement, would we take a mid-morning recess or go forward?
Judge, could we take a short recess? And I have a statement.
Okay, I think this is a good time then for our mid-morning break. We'll go ahead and take that now. And then once that's concluded, Mr. Pryor can give his opening statement to the defense.
All rise.
You guys know me. I'm running up and down the stairs. Yikes. Goodness. I don't need to be running so much. I'm old and fat. All right, let me close this. Save. Lord. Hey, David. How are you? Ooh. Let me see something here. Ow. I can't even leave my thing on. Oh, Lord, Southern Gal. I've heard that it's like really long. I don't know how long. David, it is so good that you're still kicking. I'm happy to hear that. They're good. Everybody's good. Hey, Gavel. How are you feeling, David? Hopefully okay. Ooh, too much running. Gavel, where the hell have you been? We're already on break. But we were switching back and forth between the Apple trial and this trial and back and forth. And can y'all hear me? Yeah, you can. Okay. You can, right? Ugh, rough. I don't like to hear that. Is there anything that they've come up with, David, that they can do at all? Any new drugs that they can put you on, or 2 chemos left? We are definitely praying for you, buddy. What is this? I'm so sorry. Wait a minute. Enrollment has been added. See below for your deductions. Thank you, Jen. Okay, perfect. All right, forward. How the hell do you forward this? I'm using a new email form here. It sucks. Uh-oh, gotta sneeze. Hold on. Lord God. Sorry. Oh. The allergies are really bad here. Oh, my God. Meetings, yeah. That's what, well, since I have the extra, what is it called? Monitor now. I just put you guys on one screen and then mute, and I'm working on the others. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. I hate not being able to breathe. Whoa. Okay, that's sent. So why do you keep coming back to my inbox? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. I'm trying to check all of the emails in this new email platform, and it kind of sucks. I kind of don't love it, but that's okay. All right, I get all of that. Loving you, what? They got the cancer, but cirrhosis is just too bad. Got to keep it pushing. Oh, David. Well, I mean, Cancer's gone, which is really good, but the big project. I have so many projects happening right now. It's kind of, I can't. So I don't. What is this? Another meeting? Nice to meet you. I'm available on this day and this day. Okay. Why was I copied on this? I don't want to go. Oh, I know why. Okay. Never mind. Pin that. Thank you so much. Why are you people billing me? Like, who are you? I don't even know. Annual administration fee. Huh. Okay. People just bill you for stuff, you know? They just bill you for some shit. You don't even know why. Oh, compliance testing. I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I don't have a choice, though, do I? Download, baby. I'm just talking to myself, guys. A lot less pain. Well, that's good. I don't want you to feel like I'm not talking to you because I am. Struggle bus. Yep. Yeah, I was off for spring break, but not off. You're never really off. And I got so behind. Oh my God, so behind. And now I'm trying to catch up, and it's depressing. Download, I said. Thank you. And if any of you are in businesses, you know what non-discrimination testing is, and it's horrific. But you have to fill it all out. Oh my God. No more sneezes. This case has taken so long to get here. I'm really aggravated that they're taking breaks. I'm like, you're not allowed to take a break. Yep. That is true, David. Shh. My uncle had cirrhosis and he lived forever. And then he got liver cancer. And then he passed away from that. But they cured the cancer. He had really bad cirrhosis. And then he ended up with cancer. The kids are still off school here at the minute. They never shut up, Sarah. All Jace did was play. That's it. He had a ball. So, why is this opening in Word? Who even uses Word anymore? Nobody. But here we are. Let's say the 10th. Plan year. Barely. He had like an opening statement and then it was Pryor's turn. You know, we all want to hear Pryor, honey. We all want to hear Pryor. I mean, Pryor's an ass, but he's entertaining anyway. Or, you know, to me, he's kind of entertaining. Somewhat. He can be entertaining. Let me put it that way. You know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. So, guess what? No. I'm going to ask my accounting team to do it. How about it? What are you talking about? You used word at 6 a.m. It's so annoying. Hey, Jazz. I hate word. It feels like it's like from the 90s. Oh my God. Really? So one day, no problems. Next day, sick. That's scary. That's really scary. Probably Irish girl. But that's for people who followed it. And well, clearly, I bet everybody has followed it who's on the jury. I mean, they can say they haven't, but I'm going to go with they have. I don't believe that they haven't followed it. And I mean, I'm sure they ask, how much do you know about this case? And they're like, oh, no, not a lot. The whole world knows about this damn case. The whole world. Maybe the whole world. I don't know. I feel like the whole world does. My God, what is this? Cyber liability policy. Download this and upload it over chat. Me too. A small round cheese block. How great is that name? And no, nothing interesting yet. Defense gave their opening, or prosecution gave their opening, and now we're waiting for the break. Why the fuck are you on break already? But we're waiting. And we did enhance the audio. So you couldn't even tell them the year at the hospital. That's crazy. And just come out of nowhere. You didn't even know. Can you put aside what you've heard about this? Yes, I can. Yes. Yes, I can. How many people in here would fib to get on the jury? I don't know if I would. I'm in the UK. Everybody knows. It's like 10 minutes. It's going to take 2 years. It is. This doesn't feel like 10 minutes, right? You would. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Right? Wouldn't it? I don't know. I would be like, well, I don't know a lot about the case, but kind of. I don't know. I probably would. I mean, this is like, how do you not want to, seriously, come on. Come on, people. My face tells everything I've been caught. Me too. Sarah, it's like the longest break ever. Why are they lying and saying 10 minutes? Like, you're a lie. His residence there. The jury. Patty thinks he's innocent. No. I don't think Patty thinks he's innocent. No, she does not. She doesn't. I don't believe it for a second. I don't think she does. Who these people are? I don't know. I don't know. My daughter called Monday for a kidnap essay case. She said no. Oh, hell no. Hell no. Who are you? Small round cheese block? Have we seen you before? Cheese block person? Yeah, he is. Overnight, I flipped, was strapped down. Because I don't know I was going home. I don't blame you. I do not blame you. That's what my mother used to do all the time. I'm getting the fuck out of here. She'd be trying to rip everything out of her arms. Oh my God, they hated my mother in the hospital. She was horrible. Worst patient ever. Ever. Like, ma'am, just lay down. But she wouldn't. She would not. I don't know a lot, but I know he's guilty. Same. Cheese Block was in Deets last night. Who are you? Who are you, Cheese Block? Huh? You thought Gavel's mate was sassy? I don't know who that is. Cheese Block. It's a fun name, and it's a very cute picture of the Trumpster. Crack selling grannies. Listen, that is not lame. That is crazy. Yeah, they'll pull everything out. My mother would pull out. Listen, if they had something in my mom, she's like, get me the. She threatened everybody. When I tell you she was the worst patient ever, she was the worst patient ever. Ever. Like, why are you a psycho? Stop. She wouldn't stop, though. She was crazy. She hated being in the hospital, though. She really did. Oh, Murdoch, wiping my brain. Really? I mean, yeah. But, I mean, I'm sure we're going to find out things that we didn't know, right? Of course. I keep feeling like, am I just not on play? Like, why is this taking so long? Your mom was too. It's crazy. Yeah, it does suck. Everywhere I was jerking off with my mouth. Trying to DoorDash a mimosa. Oh my God. Well, my mother just swore at everybody. Get the fuck out of my room. Ma'am, I promise you they don't want to be here. Because you wild. You're wild. Nobody want to be there. No, ma'am. And would tell her that. Like, people don't want to be around you, cuckoo bird. Stop. But she didn't care. Sarah, me and I are betrothed. Of mate, yes. I feel like they said mate because they don't want us to catch on to who they are. What do you think? That's what I think. Or are you a cheese block? Are you a spy? Ooh, an IV on your neck? Motherfucker. Mm-mm. 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 Oh, I don't want anything touching my neck. I mean, your neck, no. Your arms, you expect it, but your neck? Mm-mm. My mother's woken up to having the tubes down the throat. Oh my God, she freaks out when that happens. Well, she used to freak out when it happened. She's since passed away, but are you a fancy British cheese? Maybe. Who are you people, and why do I keep getting this fucking bill, and why is it all for different amounts? I don't understand. Who are you? Let me see. Oh, that's why. Okay. That's why. I got you. All right. I'm going to pay it. Don't worry about that. He's a scum. They left John to watch me and he tied me down where I could have. How is he dealing with everything, David? I'm sure it's very difficult. Mm-hmm. He's a scum. Oh boy, here comes another dog. Which one is this? Oh, shocking, it's Lola. That's a shocker. Hi. You left me alone for 10 minutes. That's impressive. How are you? Hi, Mamat. What? Hi, Mamat. What are you doing, dear? She does this thing. I know. Come here. Come here. I don't know if you can do all the things. Come on. She'll carry a bone around in her mouth and just like walk in front of the other dogs with it. Like, you're not going to get near this bone. You're not. It's not good. Come here. Come here, Moo. What are you doing? Don't fight with her. Don't. No. Oh, well, I guess little mama. I know. Little mama. Say hi to everybody. What? What? Mm-mm. No, little mama. No. Can I get Lola now? You be all right with that? No, probably not. Fat man's. All right, where's Lou? Thank you, Lou. No, you just want to lick her? All right, good. Can I get back in my chair then and not have y'all annoying me? Go ahead, get your bone. Get it. Don't fight. Don't fight. They want to fight. These two girls go at it so much. Oh, better than I thought. We're in a lot better place after. Well, that's good. That's the oinking. Yeah, it's oinking. Uh-huh, oinking. Piggy dog. That's what she is. She's a pain in the ass. Here they are. Wait. Can't really see them. All you can see are all my papers. That's not a real Visa card. It's a benefits card, so don't try to read it. It's a benefits card and you can't get anything off of it. It's old. Actually needs to be cut up because it's trash. See? It's garbage. Scott decided to come in and give me all his old cards today. Why, bro? Why? Why do I want them? His old health cards. You know what the trash is, buddy? You fuck. Of course not. Yeah, they'll make those sounds down under.
Thank you. Please be seated.
They're back.
Please have the chair, bro. Yes, sir.
All rise.
Very present and accounted for. All right, thank you. Please be seated. We've concluded our morning recess. We're back on the record on KCR 22-21-16-23, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. This is the time we'll next have opening statements by the defense. Mr. Pryor, is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. May I have the post permission to enter the well?
You may.
Thank you.
And maybe check that microphone to make sure it is working. Okay?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As an introduction, I'm John Pryor. I'm the defense attorney for Mr. Daybell. And I'm from Meridian, Idaho. I'm an attorney from Meridian, Idaho, over here on the west side of the state. I want to talk to you a little bit today. And at my age, video presentations are not something that would come easy to me. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about my view of the case and the facts and evidence. And what's important are facts and evidence. I think that when we went through the jury selection process, we talked about facts and we talked about evidence. And the judge gave you an instruction to talk to you a little bit about you take into consideration the facts of this case and not be distracted by other things. Don't be distracted by speculation. Don't be distracted by guesses or assumptions or hunches. It all comes down to facts and evidence. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the facts and evidence in this case. Chad Daybell, and I'm learning this, and I've had some time to learn about this because it didn't come natural to me. But Chad Daybell went on what's called a mission early on in his life. And I guess what a mission is, I'm not familiar with that, but I guess what a mission is they go away to a location and they talk to people about their religious beliefs. And Chad's faith, that was important as part of his faith. And when they return from these missions, they start the process of moving on with their lives. And when Chad got back from doing his mission in New Jersey, he met Tammy Daybell. Another fact that I discovered, and you'll hear a little bit about, is that Chad had an extended engagement, had an extended by his faith standards romance before they got married. Chad and Tammy dated for approximately 6 months. And what I understand is by their nature, 6 months is an extended dating process before you end up getting married. So after 6 months, they got married. They were married in Utah and proceeded then to have children. They have 5 children, now all 5 adult children. At some point, they moved back here to Idaho, or moved to Idaho, and they started a small publishing company. And you'll hear testimony that the publishing company was predominantly run by Tammy. Tammy managed it. Tammy was the brains behind the company. And Tammy basically took the reins and did everything that was necessary to move this publishing company. It was a small publishing company, a very small publishing company. And what they did is basically publish books. Chad would write these books. And he would write these books about his religious experiences. In his faith, he had certain beliefs, faith that he practiced. You know, when he went on his mission, when he, read his interpretation of the books that he used for his faith, he started writing books about things that were consistent with his faith. Things like premonitions. We've all heard of premonitions, about being able to predict things, about being able to see maybe when things happen. And some people believe in that, some people don't. Some people have personally experienced that, or I've been here before. But he writes about his premonitions. He writes about good and evil. and what it means to be good, what it means to be evil. He writes about dark and light. He writes about subjects that are a little darker, like death, and maybe the coming of the end of things, and when his savior in his mind is going to come back, and maybe there'll be some kind of a redemption of some sort. But his books covered a lot of subjects like that, and they were all based on fiction. In other words, he was writing these books about theories and things that came into his head, and he would write these stories. But he also wrote children's books, and he wrote books for teenagers, and he wrote these books about adventures and then some crazy ideas about things that kids and teenagers get involved in. In about October of 2018, Chad was going out and he was invited by one of the witnesses that you'll hear in this case to speak about his books. And this was not uncommon. He would travel and he would be asked to say, well, come and talk about some of the things that you believe in. You've talked about these premonitions, life experiences. You're going to hear testimony about that. And he was invited on one particular occasion in late October. And he attended this, and while he was there trying to sell his books, and like most of us who are business people, the focus of these meetings really was for Chad to try to get his books published, because that's how he made a living. And he was there in one of his booths trying to promote his books, and he laid them out there. And this beautifully stunning woman named Lori Vallow comes up. And she starts giving him a lot of attention. And she pursued him. And she encouraged him. And you'll hear testimony that she went so far as to grab behind the booth and sort of help him in trying to sell some of his books. She obviously had an interest, and maybe she felt that he was this publisher, or maybe she had an opinion. You'll hear testimony about that. And then after the seminar, there was a length of time where there was no contact between the two of them, a month and a half, 2 months. And during that time, Chad Daybell went on his day-to-day life. He'd been married to Tammy for some 29 years, has no remarkable background of any kind. I think the testimony we'll offer will show I think he had a speeding ticket in 2005. But Lori Vallow was a different story. Lori Vallow was someone who, right out of high school, married her first husband. You'll hear testimony about this. That marriage was very short-lived, very short-lived. She then married husband number 2 a few years later. And again, very short-lived marriage. And there's some testimony indication that there were some problems with the marriage that caused the breakup. But the concern seems to be, the theme seems to be that Lori's brother, Alex, and you're going to hear about Alex Cox. Alex Cox was Lori's protector. Alex Cox would do anything and everything to protect, aid, and assist Lori Vallow in whatever her endeavors, without unbridled question. Anything. And if Alex Cox even perceived that there was a problem, Alex Cox reacted. You're going to hear testimony that in 2007, I believe it was in August of 2007, Lori Vallow had finished up going through her third marriage with Joseph Ryan. It was a tumultuous, you'll hear testimony that it was a tumultuous marriage, a terrible marriage. And Lori Vallow made accusations against Joseph Ryan of abusing their child, Tylee. Yes, the same Tylee. And during one of the visits of 2007, folks, and I want to tell you, you're going to hear testimony that in 2007, Chad Daybell didn't even know Lori Vallow existed. But Alex Cox, after one of the exchanges and the visitations with Tylee, Alex Cox approached Joseph Ryan and shot him with a taser and assaulted him. Was eventually charged with aggravated assault, was eventually put in jail, and had this on his record. And there was representation, the facts will suggest that at the time Joseph Ryan feared for his life. This was a serious situation. But it set the pattern for what we're dealing with Alex Cox. Whenever there was a problem or a threat to Lori Vallow, you'll hear testimony that Alex Cox came to the rescue. But Alex Cox would run without even question and do whatever was necessary to solve Lori Vallow's problems. We're going to fast forward then to 2019. Lori Vallow is still married to Charles Vallow. And the prosecuting attorney mentioned this, yes. Chad Daybell at that point, coming in January and February, started to have communications with Lori Vallow. And yes, folks, it turned into an inappropriate relationship. 2019 and forward. And yes, he was engaging in discussions. He was engaging in contact with her, all of the things that the prosecutor talked about in terms of a relationship. But subsequent to the seriousness of this relationship getting rolling, Alex Cox was at a visitation in 2019 with Charles Vallow. And Lori Vallow was there. Tylee Ryan was there. JJ was there. They were all present. And during that altercation and that supposed visit, much like with Joseph Ryan, Alex Cox took out a gun and shot Charles Vallow. And then after calling 911, he then finished the job and walked up to him at close range, finished him off. Now, you're going to hear testimony that in some way, Chad Daybell was implicated in that. And you're going to hear further testimony that he was not. You're going to hear testimony and see documentation that suggests that the prosecuting attorney on review of this indicated that there was no likelihood of conviction of Chad Daybell. You'll hear testimony that Chad Daybell had nothing to do with the execution by Alex Cox, Charles Vallow. And the same for Brandon Boudreaux. You will hear that Chad Daybell is not being pursued for any involvement in the Brandon Boudreaux attempted murder. Those occurred and those are separate, as well as the Charles Vallow. So what we have is we have a situation where someone who's 29 years old, Chad Daybell, 29 years of marriage with Tammy Daybell, no discernible issues in his life. And then Lori Vallow comes in the picture, Miss Texas. You'll hear testimony about this beautiful, vivacious woman, very sexual person, and very manipulative. And she knows how to get what she wants. And she drew Chad Daybell into a relationship, and an unfortunate relationship, that Chad fell into. After that, things started rolling, and issues started happening that eventually, yes, there was a murder, and there was a burial. And you've heard discussion about the backyard of Chad Daybell. Well, we have a 4.5-acre farm in Fremont County, Idaho. And you'll hear testimony that the body of J.J. Vallow was discovered behind an irrigation pond and a tree out in the pasture. So technically, yes, maybe the backyard, but more accurately described as the pasture, hidden behind a tree. You're going to hear testimony that also in the middle of this pasture was a raspberry patch, former raspberry patch, that was then turned into a place for them to bury the cats, the dogs, and all of the animals on the farm. Okay. Again, out in the pasture of the field and not the backyard. You'll hear testimony about that. You're going to hear from 4 experts that I'm going to bring forward. And these 4 experts, the first one is going to be Dr. Greg Hampikian. And Dr. Hampikian is a bit of a notable local from Boise State University. And Dr. Hampikian is a DNA expert, considered one of the best DNA experts. He's been involved and has significant work that he's done on both the defense and for the prosecution. He was involved and led the team with Amanda Knox in Italy that got her exonerated because of the DNA evidence. He has substantial experience. And anybody or anyone who knows anything about DNA goes to Dr. Hampikian first, because he is the guy. And Dr. Hampinkian is going to talk a little bit about the DNA evidence that's found on the scene. Dr. Hampinkian is going to talk about the fingerprint on the plastic that J.J. Vallow was discovered in was that of Alex Cox. Dr. Hampinkian is going to talk about the hair sample that was found on the plastic of Alex Cox and that it was Lori Vallow. Dr. Hampinkian is going to talk about several, and I mean several other hairs that were found on the plastic of J.J. Vallow. But he's also going to say that there was no DNA evidence, no hair sample of Chad Daybell on Tylee Ryan or on J.J. Vallow. You're then going to hear from Dr. Raven. Dr. Raven is a forensic pathologist, and she's going to talk a little bit about the circumstances surrounding Tammy Daybell. And what Dr. Raven is going to say is that there's no indication that this is either a homicide or any other crime, and that the only conclusion she can come to is you can't determine what the cause of death was. There's no way to determine it. Tammy Daybell was buried. You'll hear testimony about that. And then a short time later, the police officers showed up and they dug her body up after she'd been buried, after she was laid to rest, and then continued after the body was pulled out of the ground and continued to examine it for whatever they were looking for. And what you're going to find is based on that, Dr. Raven's going to say you can't determine what the cause of death is. You're going to hear testimony from the Daybell children, from the children themselves, 4 of the 5 children, I think, three or four of the 5 children testimony. They're going to talk about their mother's health struggles. They're going to talk about their mother's use of various medicinal treatments that she would use, oils that she would put on her leg, medicine and different herbs that she would take, and that her mother was suffering from, that their mother was suffering from a number of maladies, and that she would refuse to go see a doctor or get it treated. And Dr. Raven's going to enlighten you a little bit about some of the circumstances regarding Tammy Daybell. You're then going to hear from Patrick Eller. He's a forensic digital data examiner. And Patrick Eller is someone who has spent his life in the military working for various agencies, and we'll talk a little bit about that, within the government to do data retrieval and data research. And he's going to talk a little bit about the phone records that are involved in this case. He's going to specifically talk about the travels of Alex Cox, because you are going to hear testimony that Alex Cox went to Chad Daybell's property on the 9th of September. You're going to hear that Alex Cox approached Chad Daybell's property a half a dozen other, 5 or 6 other times. You're going to hear testimony that Alex Cox was there on the 23rd. And you're going to hear where Alex Cox was in a number of other times and places in his whereabouts and his travels for about a 2.5 month period. And Patrick is going to, offer you some information and data to support all of that. And finally, you're going to hear from a forensic anthropologist, and his name's Eric Bartlink. And Mr. Bartlink is going to talk to you a little bit about the nature and the nature of how the remains of Tylee were burned. Eric Bartlink is going to talk to you a little bit about the lack of complete skeletal remains and why, when Tylee was dug down the ground, there was not a complete set of skeletal remains. In fact, there were a number of pieces of that were missing. You're going to hear a lot of evidence, and the judge has talked to us a little bit about not making a decision until you hear all of the evidence. And there's a specific jury instruction that talks about that. The jury instruction is, consider all the evidence. Listen to the instructions from the court on how you're to proceed. Listen to the arguments of the prosecuting attorney and the defense. And then and only then do you make your decision. And at the conclusion of all that evidence, and at the conclusion of the judge's instructions, the arguments of both of the defense attorneys, I'm going to ask you folks to return a verdict not guilty. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the opening statement of the defense. Then this time we will commence with presenting evidence. I understand the state does have a first witness to call. Is the state ready and prepared to do that?
Your Honor, the state is prepared. We had spoken with your clerk earlier. We thought we were going to have a brief sidebar.
Well, let's discuss our schedule and put there inside. Sure. Council, thanks for discussing scheduling. Our intention here will be to start with the state's first witness that apparently will take some time. So we will plan on taking a lunch hour also at right around noon if possible. So Mr. Wood, are you going to be calling the first witness?
Yes, Your Honor, and the state will be calling right from the seat.
All right, well, go ahead and call your witness. We'll have him come up and sworn.
Sir, before speaking. When you're facing Madam Clerk, raise your right hand and be sworn.
Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right. Officer, as you testify, just remember to make a audible response to anything being questioned, so that the record stays clear, and try to avoid speaking over the top of anyone questioning you. That in mind, then, if you would, if you'd like to inquire, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, will you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Ray Hermosillo, Hermosillo. Is that on?
Your Honor, is that microphone on?
I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and start over and just talk right into the mic, please.
Detective, will you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Ray Hermosillo, Hermosillo.
Thank you. Detective Hermosillo, what is your occupation?
I'm currently a lieutenant in the detective division for the Rexburg Police Department.
How long have you been a detective?
5 years.
And how long were you involved in law enforcement before you became a detective?
Before I was a detective, 18 years.
Have you worked for any other law enforcement agency other than the Rexburg Police?
No,
And are you post-certified?
I am.
Detective, have you been involved in the case regarding Chad Daybell?
Yes, I have.
You know what Chad Daybell looks like?
I do.
Is he present in this courtroom?
He is. He's at the defendant's table for sure in a low screen time.
Thank you. Detective, let's talk about how did you initially become involved in the investigation regarding Mr. Daybell?
On November 1st, 2019, I was contacted by Fremont County Sheriff's Office. I was told that there was possibly a Jeep that was involved in an attempted homicide in our jurisdiction. So at that time, with that information, I contacted Gilbert Police and asked what they needed us to do to assist them.
What did you do?
Gilbert Police asked us to seize the Jeep if it was located. They gave us the address of 565 Pioneer, which is Rock Creek Townhomes. They also asked us,
Detective, I'm going to stop real quick. Where is that address located? What city?
Rexburg,
What county is Rexburg in?
Madison County.
So once you received that address, what did you do?
Gilbert asked us to seize the Jeep if we had located the Jeep. They also asked us to perform intermittent surveillance. So at that time, that's exactly what we did.
When you say intermittent surveillance, what did you do to perform that surveillance?
When we were driving around, when there was no other calls coming in, we would park in front of the residence, behind the residence, take photographs of anybody leaving or coming in. That's basically what we did for the surveillance.
And do you recall what dates you did that surveillance?
The dates were between November 1st and November 4th when I located the Jeep at 565 Pioneer.
Did you ever see the defendant at that address?
I did. There were a few times during the intermittent surveillance that we had taken photographs of the defendant, Mr. Daybell, and Lori Vallow, either coming or going from the residence.
And that was between the dates of November 1st and November 4th.
Judge, could we, for the record, have this officer established?
I'm sorry, 2019.
So. Right, and did you, when you talked about seeing Mr. Daybell, was that between those dates of November 1st and November 4th, 2019?
That's correct.
And your primary job was to look for a Jeep, is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed what's been marked, the State's Exhibit 90. Very well. The court has a courtesy copy and counsel as well.
Mr. Wood, to be clear, it sounded like you said 90. This is 9A.
I believe it's 90. Double check.
I just see the exhibit, so I can confirm my words. It's okay.
You're correct, Honor. 9A.
Thank you.
And that would be exhibits 9A through 90. Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibits 9A through 90?
Yes, I do.
What do they purport to be?
That is the Jeep that I had seized, parked in the parking lot just outside of 565.
Right. And were these pictures taken at the location of 565 Pioneer?
No, these photographs are taken at our impound lot at the police department.
Right. Did you take these pictures?
I did not.
But do you recognize these images as true and accurate representations of the Jeep you seized from 565 Pioneer Drive?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask the State's Exhibits 9A through D be entered into evidence.
The objection from the defense.
Judge, I'd like to move on to your immediate action on the foundation.
All right, you can board there or ask foundational questions, Mr. Pryor.
Officer Homicino, thank you. You mentioned that you were doing surveillance on the Jeep, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you have an occasion to get close to the Jeep during that surveillance?
We hadn't located the Jeep during that surveillance. I located the Jeep on November 4, 2019, and that's when I had it impounded.
Okay, and at the time of being impounded, did you have the occasion to go through the Jeep and observe the Jeep enter? Or were you relying just on the photographs taken in the Jeep? Do you understand my question?
No, sir. Can you
I'll
repeat it?
rephrase that. Did you have a personal occasion to go through the inside of that Jeep and observe the contents within the Jeep?
Your Honor, I think that goes beyond the scope of this specific exhibit.
I guess the issue, Mr. Wood, is he indicated he did not take these photographs, and some of the exhibits also contain photographs of the interior of the Jeep, so it's proper for dire negative objection.
May I continue, Judge?
Yes.
Officer, all I'm trying to establish is I don't want you to be able to testify that someone else took the pictures and this is what they found. I want you to be able, you're authenticating and you're under oath to swear that these are accurate photos. I'm trying to find out if that knowledge is based on your personal experience, or is it simply based on the fact that you're relying on somebody else who told you this is what we found? So that's what I'd like you to clarify for me, if you would, sir.
Sure. I impounded the Jeep. I was standing next to the officer taking the photographs, and I also went through the Jeep personally.
Okay, I withdraw the objection. Thank you, officer.
All right, exhibits 9A through D are admitted.
Thank you. May I publish to the jury?
You may want to have a quick sidebar with counsel.
It's like a reporter.
All right, Mr. Wood, if you'd like to proceed with publishing the court's instructions there on the sidebar, then you may publish any or all of the photos.
Thank you, Your Honor, and if I could have access to the album. Detective, is this what you saw on State's Exhibit A?
Yes,
Is this the Jeep that you had been assigned to do surveillance for?
that's right.
Did you ever learn who this Jeep belonged to?
I did.
Who did it belong to?
It was registered to Charles Vallow, but we later determined that Tylee Ryan drove that Jeep.
Detective, this is State's Exhibit 9B. Is this that same Jeep?
Yes,
That's all I'm going to publish from now.
All right, thank you.
Detective, while you were doing your surveillance, you testified that you had occasion to see the defendant, Lori Vallow. Did you ever see children with her?
no, we didn't.
Did you ever see anybody else with them?
No.
That's good. Were you, at that time, were you aware of who J.J. Vallow was?
No,
Were you aware of who Tylee Ryan was?
no,
So when you spoke with, is it fair to say that when you were initially contacted by another law enforcement agency, they did not ask you to look for those children at that time?
that's correct.
Detective, did your role in this investigation change after that?
It did.
When did that happen?
After I had seized the Jeep November 4th, 2019, I contacted Gilbert Police and let them know I had the Jeep. Gilbert Police Department flew to Rexburg with a few of their detectives and a few of their crime analysts to go through the Jeep and serve a warrant with the Jeep. They were looking for the infotainment center, which is the middle of the Jeep console. It has the GPS locations, things of that nature, and they wanted the information extracted. So when they were up here on November 18th, 2019, they asked me and the other detectives if during our intermittent surveillance, if we had seen any children. And we told them we hadn't. They stated that JJ's grandmother.
Judge, I'm gonna object. I'm trying to be somewhat open-minded about foundation, but I'm gonna object.
I'll ask a question, Your Honor.
Go ahead, thanks.
So you did have further contact with law enforcement from Arizona? Correct. And which law enforcement agency was that?
Gilbert Police Department.
And was it Gilbert Police Department that was looking for that Jeep?
Yes, it was.
When you followed up with them about the Jeep, did they give you any other information about their case?
They did.
Did any of that information regard children?
Yes, it did.
What were you told by Gilbert Police?
Judge, objection, hearsay.
Coming in for the effect on the listener, Your Honor.
Judge, could we approach?
No, give me a moment to make a ruling on that. I'll instruct the witness can answer the question, but for only the purpose of effect on the listener, if you can clarify that with your witness, Mr. Wood. Sure. And any objections overruled.
Detective, based on your conversation with Gilbert Police Did you take any action regarding any children involved in this case?
Yes, we did.
And for the purpose of what you did, what information were you given that you needed to look up on?
We were informed through their investigation that JJ Vallow's grandmother was concerned for his safety.
Judge, and again, I'm gonna object at this point to renew my objection. That's going beyond.
I'll also stand that as bringing up your statements to it.
Okay. Based on your conversation with Gilbert Police, what was the next step you took in your investigation?
We were requested to do a welfare check on JJ Vallow from the Gilbert Police Department.
Detective, had you ever met JJ Vallow?
No,
Were you provided any identifying information as to his age or where he might be?
we were provided very little information, just a brief description of what he looked like, his age, and where he should be, which was 565. Sorry, 565 Pioneer Road, where he lived with his mother, Lori Vallow.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 1.
Judge, I'm gonna stipulate to the admission of State's Exhibit 1.
All right, it's being offered, Mr. Wood.
Yes, Your Honor.
State's Exhibit 1 has been offered without objection. The court will admit State's Exhibit 1.
And Your Honor, with that stipulation, I'd actually ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 2 and State's Exhibit 3 as well.
Further stipulate to State's Exhibit 2, and stipulate to State's Exhibit 3.
Very well. Then, presuming they're being offered, State's Exhibits 2 and 3 are also admitted. And Mr. Wood, if they're going to be published again, the same issue we discussed before, please.
That's all I'm doing that. Thank you. Detective, can you look at State's Exhibit 1?
Okay.
What is State's Exhibit 1?
That is a birth certificate out of the state of Louisiana.
Your Honor, where this is related, may I publish?
Yeah.
Detective, can you identify who this is a birth certificate for?
The name on my birth certificate is Canaan Todd Trahan,
What is the birth date?
May 25th, 2012.
And where is the place of birth?
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Your Honor, if I may publish State's Exhibit 2.
Yeah.
Detective, I'm going to ask you to turn to the second page of State's Exhibit 2. Detective, what is State's Exhibit 2?
It's a decree of adoption.
And reading through that, are you aware of who that is a decree of adoption for?
Yes,
Who is it for?
Canaan Todd Trahan.
And on the bottom of that, can you read the second to the bottom paragraph? That exhibit.
The entire paragraph.
Yes, please.
It is further ordered, the judge and decreed that the name of the child, Canaan Todd Trahan, be changed as follows: Joshua Jackson Vallow, and the registrar of the Louisiana Department of Public Health and Statistics is hereby ordered to make the appropriate changes in its records.
May I have other states exhibit 3 now?
Yes.
Detective, what is states exhibit 3?
That is also a birth certificate from the state of Louisiana.
And who is it a birth certificate for?
Joshua Jackson Vallow.
Detective, in the course of your investigation, have you learned what Joshua Jackson or JJ Vallow looks like?
Yes.
Have you seen pictures of him?
Yes, I have.
Were you able to access pictures of him from iCloud accounts associated with his mother?
Yes.
Your Honor, I ask that the witness be handed states exhibit 4.
All right, the witness is handed states exhibit 4.
Detective, you testified that you never met JJ Vallow, correct?
Correct.
How did you come to know what he looked like?
Through photographs we were given.
Where did you get those photographs?
We received a few from Gilbert Police. His grandmother, Kay Woodcock. I think that's all I can remember.
And I spoke with you briefly before. Did you ever have occasion to review iCloud accounts belonging to Lori Vallow?
Yes, we did.
And on those iCloud accounts, did you find other pictures of JJ Vallow?
Yes, we did.
And did you find videos of JJ Vallow?
Yes.
Based on your investigation, what does Exhibit 4 purport to be?
A photograph of JJ Vallow.
And you didn't take this picture, correct?
Correct.
But you recognize that individual as Joshua or JJ Vallow?
Yes.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes, the state would move to admit the state's Exhibit 4.
The objection. Judge, there's a little bit of foundation that one iron on. So what's the source of that picture? Where did
Lori's iCloud, Lori for Style, iCloud.com.
Judge, can we approach just briefly on this issue?
Based on a sidebar with counsel, I understand the defense does not have an objection at this point to exhibit 4 being submitted. Is that correct, Mr. Pryor?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, exhibit 4 then is submitted.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
You know,
Detective, who is that?
That's JJ Vallow.
Detective, you were talking about receiving a request to do a welfare check, correct?
That's correct.
When did you receive that request?
On November 25th, 2019, in late evening hours, I received a call from Detective Pillar with the Gilbert Police Department, and he requested that
Judge, I'm going to object to this.
A request is a hearsay.
at this point, I don't hear an objection on hearsay, so you see.
Go ahead and repeat the question, please.
What did you do in response to that request?
On November 25th, 2019, I received a call from Detective Pillar, the Gilbert Police Department. He requested that I do a welfare check on JJ Vallow the next morning because he wasn't able to get a hold of JJ or.
That'll be sustained as hearsay.
Did you do a welfare check for JJ Vallow?
We did.
What date did you do that?
November 26th, 2019.
How did you go about doing that?
On that morning of November 26th, 2019, myself and Detective Daybell went to Lori Vallow's residence where we presumed JJ was at. She lived at 565 Pioneer, apartment 175. As we approached, expecting to speak with Lori, we noticed the defendant, Chad Daybell, and Alex Cox unloading a pickup truck near the garage area.
And at this point, were you aware of who Chad Daybell was?
Yes.
How would you learn about him?
Through our investigation with Gilbert and communicating with Gilbert Police Department.
And so you recognized who he was.
Correct.
And at that time, were you aware who Alex Cox was?
Yes, we were.
So after you saw them, what did you do next?
I got out of my vehicle and made contact with Alex. He was standing at the driver's side of his pickup truck, and the defendant Daybell was on the passenger side. I asked Alex if Lori Vallow was home, and he stated that she wasn't home. I asked Alex if JJ was home, that we were there to do a welfare check. And at that point, Alex got a surprised, frightened look on his face, looked over at across the pickup at the defendant Daybell. The defendant Daybell then looked back at Alex. And initially, neither one of them answered my question.
After they didn't answer your question, what did you do?
I asked them again if JJ was home, and Alex Cox finally answered and stated that JJ was with his grandmother in Louisiana.
When you were given that information, did it cause you any concern?
It did, because I informed Alex that it was highly unlikely because his grandmother.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. We're going to be getting into soon.
I'll sustain that.
Your Honor, I think the defendant's about to testify what he said to Alex Cox.
Okay, that's not what I understood where it was going. You can ask the question, Mr. Wood.
Second, what did you say to Alex Cox?
I informed Alex that it was unlikely because Kay.
Judge, I'm going to object. This is going to lead into hearsay.
Your Honor, this is a statement by a declarant on the witness seat. It cannot be hearsay.
Overruled. held, and it is permissible, so objection overruled.
What did you say to Alex Cox?
I informed Alex that it was unlikely that JJ was with his grandmother Kay because she was the one who called in the welfare check.
And what was the response to that?
There was no response initially. Alex again looked over at the defendant Daybell, and they kind of both just looked at each other. And at that point, I asked Alex where I could find Lori Vallow.
And did he give you a location to find her?
He stated that she was in apartment 107, which is the same apartment complex, just a few apartments down.
What did you do at that point?
At that point, I asked Alex if there was a way I could contact Lori and asked Alex for her cell phone number. And Alex told me that he didn't have her cell phone number.
So were you aware at that point that Alex Cox and Lori Vallow were siblings?
Yes, through our investigation with Gilbert, we knew that Alex Cox and Lori Vallow were extremely close. So when Alex told me he didn't have his sister's cell phone number, I assumed he was lying to me.
What did you do once you received that information?
Myself and Detective Hope left the defendant Daybell and Alex at the pickup truck. We went over to apartment 107 to see if we could make contact with Lori. At that point, we were just trying to find JJ Vallow.
And were you able to locate him at apartment 107?
No, we knocked on apartment 107, there was no answer. So at that point, Detective Hope began knocking on neighbors' doors. See if we can get a hold of anybody who would know if they saw a little boy coming in and out of that apartment or who resided at that apartment. And while Detective Hope was doing that, I started walking back to my vehicle to call for more detectives to come over to our location.
Why did you call for more detectives?
Because of the deception from Alex. I wanted to figure out what exactly was going on. And we were going to start canvassing the area and knocking on doors, so the more detectives we had on scene, the better it was for us.
Detective, to clarify, when you first saw Alex and Chad Daybell, did you speak with Chad Daybell?
No, I personally did not.
So I believe you testified that you started walking back to the original.
Correct.
What happened then?
As I was approaching my car that was parked in the alleyway, I noticed the defendant Daybell driving towards me in a black Chevy Equinox. It appeared he had just left apartment 175 and was headed towards me in the alleyway. So at that point, I stopped him to have a conversation.
What did you ask him?
I asked the defendant Daybell, when's the last time you saw JJ Vallow? And he stated it was in October in apartment 107 with Lori Vallow.
Did you ask him anything else?
I did. I asked him how he knew Lori, and he stated he had only met her a couple of times, and that he didn't know her very well.
Did that response cause any concern for you?
It did.
Why?
Through our investigation, prior to me making any contact with the defendant Daybell or Alex Cox, we knew that Chad and Lori had been married 2 weeks prior to my conversation with them in the alley.
So is it fair to say you were troubled by his government? What happened after that?
I asked Mr. Daybell, the defendant Daybell, if he had Lori Vallow's telephone number so I can get hold of her. And he stated he didn't have her phone number.
Did you have any further conversation?
I did. When I was speaking with the defendant Daybell, Detective Hope saw me talking with him and started to walk back to my location. As he approached, I again asked the defendant Daybell for Lori's number because I assumed he was lying to me based on what I knew. And at that time, he did give me Lori's phone number.
Did he tell you why he didn't give it to you in the first place?
He did. He stated that he felt I was accusing him of something.
And had you accused him of anything?
No, I simply asked him the whereabouts of JJ and asked him for his wife's telephone number.
Detective, during this interaction, were you wearing a body cam?
No, I wasn't.
Why not?
In the detective division, most of our interviews are in a controlled environment. We call people into the police department. We have an interview room set up with cameras. So most of the time we're conducting our business and our interviews at the police department. It's very rare we're the first officers or detectives on scene. There is one body cam between 7 detectives. Unlike patrol, where a patrolman is assigned a body cam, a detective is not assigned a body.
What happened after you got that information from the defendant?
I called my lieutenant at the time and told him what was going on. I felt that based on the deception and lies from the defendant Daybell, who is JJ's stepfather, the lies and the deception from JJ's uncle, who is Alex Cox, I felt there was more going on with the whereabouts of JJ. And so at that time, I wanted to get everybody over there to see if we could figure out what was going on. So I asked my lieutenant to gather some detectives and respond to my location.
And then what happened?
A few minutes later, my lieutenant arrived with Detective Dave Stubbs, who had a body cam at that point. We began knocking on doors. We went back to 175, which was Lori Vallow's apartment, and started knocking on her door and didn't get any answer.
And I apologize if I missed it. Who was your lieutenant?
Ron Ball.
All right, so after you weren't able to get any answers, what did you do next?
Through our investigation, we learned that Lori Vallow's niece, Melanie Boudreaux, it was Melanie Pulowski, Melanie Boudreaux at the time, it's now Melanie Pulowski. She lived in apartment 174, which is right next door to Lori. So at that point, we knocked on her apartment as well to see if Lori or JJ was at that apartment.
Did anybody answer?
No, they didn't.
What did you do next?
I was instructed to go back to the police department, go to the prosecutor's office to see if we can obtain a search warrant to search the residence for JJ Vallow, while the other detectives stayed on scene and started knocking on doors in that complex. At that point, our only focus was to find JJ and to figure out what was going on. So we were going to exhaust every means that we could to see if we could do that. And that's why I went to the prosecutor's office to see if I could obtain a search warrant.
And did you obtain a warrant that day?
No.
Why not?
On the way to the prosecutor's office, Detective Hope, with the number that the defendant Daybell provided, called that number. There was no answer, but he left a message. Once we got to the prosecutor's office, Lori Vallow called back, and she was instructed to open the door. There were detectives outside of her door that wanted to speak with her.
And are you aware of if any detectives were able to make contact with her that day?
Yes, they did.
Do you know who that was?
Detective Stubbs and Detective Ball.
And you had mentioned earlier that Detective Stubbs had a body cam on, correct?
Correct.
And do you know if their interaction with Lori Vallow was recorded?
Yes, it was.
Have you watched that video?
Yes, I have.
At that point in your investigation, what did you do?
After
Detectives Ball and Stubbs had spoken with Lori Vallow, what did you do? What did you do next?
we were informed that JJ was with a family friend.
Judge, I'm going to object if there's any comments.
Sustain that.
Detective, did you speak with Detectives Ball and Stubbs about their interaction with Lori that day?
Yes,
Did you speak with them that day?
yes,
Did you watch the body cam of their interaction with Lori Vallow that day?
yes, I did.
So you're aware of what she said to them.
Correct.
Based on what she said to them, what did you do next in your investigation?
We attempted to locate the family friend to see if JJ was with her in Gilbert, Arizona.
And do you know who that family friend was?
Melanie Gibb,
Were you able to contact them?
I was not.
Did you have any interaction with Arizona Law Enforcement Day about contacting Melanie Gibb?
I did. It was starting to get into the later hours of that evening. So I contacted Detective Pillar with Gilbert Police Department. And I had him go to Melanie Gibb's residence to see if JJ was there. Ultimately, we learned he was not there.
About what time did you learn that JJ was not with Melanie Gibb?
Roughly 9 o'clock at night.
And what did you do when you found out that he was not there?
I contacted Lieutenant Wall and let him know. And we agreed to meet at the prosecutor's office that next morning early to obtain search warrants for those apartments.
Okay, and just for clarity of the record, which apartments are you talking about?
Apartment 175, which belonged to Lori Vallow, 174, which belonged to Melanie Boudreaux, and apartment 107, because that's the last time JJ was seen based on the defendant Daybell's statements.
Detective, were you able to obtain those warrants?
Yes, we were.
What did you do? Well, what day did you obtain those warrants?
November 27th, 2019, in the early morning hours.
And on that day, did you execute those warrants?
We did.
Let's talk about that. Where did you search first?
We searched apartment 175 first.
Was there a reason you searched there first?
That was his address that we were given from Gilbert Police Department, and that's where his mother lived.
What did you find in apartment 175?
So initially, when we broke down the door, everything looked ordinary. There were couches, there were papers on the table, there was food in the refrigerator, food in the pantry. We went upstairs, there were beds, pictures. Everything seemed that people lived there. The thing that caught our attention was there were no clothes on the hanger in any of the closets. Zero clothes. Just a bunch of empty hangers hanging there like somebody took the clothes off and left.
Did you locate JJ in that apartment?
No,
Did you see any evidence whatsoever to suggest that he had been living there?
yes, we did. There were a couple things. We located a child's Star Wars suitcase underneath a little crawl space under the stairs. It was mixed in with some, what I can best describe as 72-hour kits, and the kits had like flashlights, flares, water. The suitcase was mixed in with those. We also found an old prescription bottle prescribed to JJ of Resperdone. And then we're miscellaneous photographs of JJ in the residence.
And did you see any other evidence of any minor children?
No. Correct. We did. When we first went inside, there were some scooters and a small child's, looked like a small child's bike right on the porch.
Okay. Did you seize anything from the home that day?
We did, I seized the Resperdone and the suitcase.
After you searched apartment 175, what did you do next?
We searched 174, which was Melanie Boudreaux's apartment. Everything appeared normal in there. There were no signs of JJ or anything that he was even there. But we also searched apartment 107, and that was completely vacant. There was nothing in apartment 107.
Did you seize anything from apartments 174 or 107?
We seized, in apartment 174, we seized some cash, large amounts of cash that were found in the closet. And the only reason we seized those were for safekeeping, because we had kicked the door in there as well, and it wasn't able to lock, so we took that.
Did you locate any weapons in any of those apartments?
So in apartment 175, when we were searching the garage area, we located several different style weapons, handguns, rifles, various calibers, army knives, a lot of different weapons that were inside the garage.
And why did you seize those?
Again, for safekeeping. That apartment didn't lock. And so we took those so it wouldn't be stolen.
Did you find any evidence that JJ Vallow had been in apartment 174?
No.
Did you find any evidence that JJ Vallow had been in apartment 107? No. Did you search any other building that day?
We did. In apartment 175, we located a storage unit rental agreement contract. And on that storage unit contract was the name Lori Ryan. It had listed her as the tenant, and it listed the storage unit number as T52, and it gave an address of self-storage on Airport Road in Rexburg. So with that information, we were able to obtain a search warrant for that storage unit as well.
And did you participate in the search of that storage unit?
Yes, I did.
What did you find there?
There were a few bikes, children's bikes. There were boxes of winter clothing, some ice skates. There wasn't a lot in the storage unit. There was a personalized like a family blanket, a big blanket with family photos that were kind of sewn onto the blanket. Those photos had JJ Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and their sibling Kobe Ryan. There were pictures of Lori Vallow. But other than that, there was nothing else really in the story.
When you performed these searches, were you looking for Tylee Ryan?
No.
So to your knowledge, she hadn't been reported missing.
That's correct.
Your Honor, if I could have a brief step up.
Yes.
Mr. Wood, I understand this would be a good breaking point in this testimony for the lunch hours, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take our lunch recess at this time. Before we do that, again, I will just advise the jurors, please don't discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else over the break. In addition, for those in the courtroom, we will be closing the courtroom, I believe, during the lunch break. So things you have in here, we need to go with you. We'll reopen upon the conclusion of the lunch break, and we'll still be under the court's governing order for courtroom conduct when we return. So thank you everyone for complying with that. With that in mind, we'll go ahead and take our lunch recess now.
All rise.
Did they say how long the lunch break is going to be? No? Yes? Maybe? I don't know. They didn't say. Usually it's an hour, right? Because I can... What I'm going to do is move us over to StreamYards where we can zoom in on them. I like being able to see everybody. And I hate not being able to see people. So I can't really move because my dogs are underneath. Here, Lola, go around that. Here, please. I can't even move. They're literally under my feet. Horrid. Horrible. Okay. So what we're going to do, let me see. Delete, 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 delete. Video capture, display capture, alert box, live scene, source. Add a source. Display capture is going to be over there, right there. Okay, that's very good. I like it. Hey, Nicole. I'm going to zoom in on the Zoom, honey. I am. I'm going to zoom on the Zoom. So we'll pull that in. And then let me see what this looks like. Let me rewind so that I can. Oh, you can't even rewind. Oh, you little son of a beach. Okay. So you can't really rewind. So not today. No, it's just nope, not today. I do have the nope, not today satin on my my bonfire. Is it bonfire that I use? I don't even know anymore. I used to know all the things. No, I don't. Let's see. And then we're going to first when there's nothing. All right, so we'll do that. And then we're going to add another display capture. Right. Two of them, right. That's what we're doing. But I need to see. We're going to test out, well, we can't test anything right now because I'm not live on that. So that doesn't help. We can't do it until we go live again. Because this is just not going to do nothing. Images. Add a new source. Okay. JJ and Tylee. Perfect. Perfect. Is that another display capture? That's confusing. Delete that one. Okay, great. All right. Yeah, we're going to have to start another one. So I'm going to end this one. He said an hour. Perfect. I'm going to end this one and then we can test stuff on the other one. Okay. I'll be right back.